Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out at Night, mostly. I am Graveyard, joined by my co-host, Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 34 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. Do we all still scream for Scream? Legacy characters. Retcons to make legacy characters. And we enter the franchise of Scream. So spoilers ahead for Scream 6. For anyone that hasn't watched it, go ahead and make sure you watch it first before listening to the last third of this podcast. So we'll be discussing, Scream 4, 5, and 6, or Scream for Scream 5. We'll get into that, funness that occurred with that titling as well. And rumor mill is that Scream 7 is starting to be written, casted, and yeah, we'll see if this franchise continues after this.
Well, hopefully they can get Neve Campbell to come back for the 7th one.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be, she needs to come back. So, all right, and we'll do as we always do, and we're sticking with number of stabs out of 10 for this week, as this is the sequel trilogy of the podcast for the sequel trilogy so far. So yeah, let's go ahead and start off with Scream 4. Now, up until today, at the time of this recording, Scream 4 was the only Scream movie I had seen in theaters. I know we discussed this last week's episode, but Salem, you only saw 1 and maybe 2 in theaters.
Well, I know I saw 2. I may have seen 1.
But definitely not Scream 4 or 5.
No,
theaters.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into this thing. We probably get the most meta opening of any of these with Scream 4. Considering there's 2 fake outs. And we'll have to figure out the chronologically confused timeline of the stab movies, because Scream 4 does some interesting things with the franchise of the movies in the movie that we'll get into a little bit too, right? So,
well, yeah, but I think, as of this movie, I believe Stab 7 is the newest one, right? Yeah. So at the beginning of this, the beginning of Stab 7 is Stab 6.
Yes.
Is that, that's what they said.
Yep. And we get Stab 8 in Scream 2022. And then that's it. Those are done. But we get, introductions of it, because they don't say Scream Stab 5 involves time travel.
Right.
Because only they said in here, only the first 3 are based off of Sidney Prescott's life. Then she's sued to make the rest of them not about her in the Scream universe. Which really begs the question.
Also, in the Scream universe, they didn't have enough material to keep going with her character.
Right. Yeah, because they stopped having those rights and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, I guess there's only been 3 things, but still means Stab 3 happened. There was still a Stab 3. No. Was it the original script from Scream 3? Don't really know, do we?
Well, I'm going to go on a limb and say no. But I mean, a studio, if you have that big of a buzz around your movie, like people died for the movie and stuff like that, people will watch it. Unless there's a legal thing that stops it from coming out, they will make it.
Yeah.
Like, that movie Rust, horrible, horrible things happen. Do you honestly think they won't release that movie?
That's a good point.
Of course they will, because there's huge buzz. I know they say that, no publicity is bad publicity, but that's pretty bad publicity. But, again, of course they're going to release it.
Yeah.
So, I doubt it was the same script, but I'm sure they made another Stab 3, and I'm sure they made reference to those, if not make it about that story.
That'd be very meta, too meta.
Well,
they're going to have to spin the top to realize if they're in a dream or not at this point.
That's very possible.
So yeah, we get 2 fake outs where people are watching it. It's the start of Stab 6, and then it cuts to, other to I never remember her name.
Kristen Bell and
Kristen Bell and
Anna
Anna
Paquin.
Paquin.
Yeah.
Yes. And she's like, "Oh, you can see this coming." And then she gets stabbed, and oh, so stab 7 was stab 6. Blah blah blah. Who knows? But in this canon universe, there are officially 7 of them. We'll get to that later on. But we are back to Woodsboro. It's our first time officially back since Scream 1. And it's been 15 years since the original Scream movie in universe. So it's 2011. So it actually lines up. Essentially, two friends are killed at the beginning of the movie. And it is Ghostface. They go through the whole spiel of your favorite scary movie, and am I inside the house? All that jazz. And it just happens to be about the same time that Sidney Prescott is back in Woodsboro doing a book tour for Out of the Darkness, which is her book covering, the real events that happened. Her take on it.
I think it's just about her surviving.
Yeah. And we kind of find out, she's there, and Annie's boobs are, from I can never remember her name either.
The beautiful Alison Brie is her name.
Alison Brie, yes. She is in way out of character than we've ever seen her in this movie. She's her publicist, and like how people were shocked to see Courtney Cox, her character, Gail Weathers, from Friends to that. I'd say it's a pretty decent jump from her character from, obviously Community to this, and it's about the same time frame Community was on and running.
I don't know. You ever see Glow?
Yeah, but that was later.
I mean, yeah, it's later. I'm just saying, like,
oh yeah,
she was moving on. I mean, yeah, it wasn't shocking. It's still her as a character. I mean, yeah, playing like the kind of caring about clout PR person, but I mean, it's still her. I mean, her still her acting,
her mannerisms.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
And we find that Dewey is now the sheriff and has finally learned to grow a mustache properly.
Learned the cop mustache.
Yes, but he's now the sheriff, even though, amazingly, because it's been 11 years since the last one, that he went back to Woodsboro and went back into law enforcement, because he wasn't doing that in 2 and 3 at that point. And he is married to Gail Weathers, and she's also in Woodsboro, and she hasn't written a book since her last one. So there hasn't been a book written of the source material to create new movies, so they just went off their own wild tangents and really didn't have the Sidney character anymore, or any other characters, I would say. True horror movie franchise where they just forget the originals and just move on with the storylines. Anyway, there's masks everywhere. They're taking them down because it is the anniversary. It is Woodsboro. People are really stoked about this town, which is a little crazy, I would say, to have people that riled up about it and that excited for it too. I guess I don't have a movie based in my hometown, so I don't know, maybe it'd be different. But anyway, she's reading from her excerpts. She sees Gail, and then she goes to her car, and they're like, oh, well, we traced. I think they traced it to her car, and the phone's inside her car. There's blood all over inside her trunk. She's coming in for questioning. Then we are introduced to the rest of the new cast, let's call them, right? The new group of teenagers. They are pretty damn close to teenagers, actually, than we were in the first ones.
Well, yeah, they're closer than they were before.
So we meet Sydney's cousin, Jill Roberts, whose mom is the president from Battlestar Galactica, who is Maureen Prescott's sister.
Who is absent for most of the movie for some reason.
Yes. Except when she needs to be.
Well, yeah, she comes back later on, but I remember thinking, I'm like, is she gone? Did I miss something? Did they say she was leaving or something? Where the hell is she? But no, she does come back.
Right. So we meet Jill Roberts, we meet Kirby, we meet Olivia, and they're talking about they're getting phone calls from
Kirby
Ghostface.
is the lovely Hayden Panettiere. You can't forget that.
That is true. And Jill Roberts is played by Emma Roberts. Big stretch of last name there.
Well, they don't call her by her last name, so
yeah.
Acting.
And they're talking about that 2 of them got phone calls from Ghostface, and there's this whole app that people can use and call, using the app to do the voice modulator to make it sound exactly like the voice, which is pretty interesting. And they're talking about her ex-boyfriend Trevor, who was cheated on her, who keeps calling her friends to get a hold of Jill. And they all get kind of questioned about it because it's her cousin, and like, oh, you guys got phone calls, and Kirby's like, I didn't get a phone call. Does that mean I'm next? And Dewey goes, probably. Wait, no. Still being Dewey. Even though he has a better stash, he's still Dewey, right? Let's say Gail somehow survived 10 years of marriage with Dewey. And took her that long to kind of get really upset by living in the small town, I would say. And, she's like, all right, I need to get back into this. But she's like, I'm investigating. She's like, well, you're not. You're not a journalist anymore. Oh, rub that in my face. And, we kind of get some back and forth with the kids. We learned that, a couple of them are really big stab fanatics, kind of like Mickey in a way, I would say. They're very Mickey-esque and Randy-esque. Their banter back and forth.
Well, yeah, I mean, they always have to have those characters because that's like a trope in the Scream movies, is that someone always has to explain to you the rules, which are always the same rules, which I don't even know why they bother at this point.
And they don't follow them.
Well, because the rules are always like, oh, well, this is the, whatever it is, whether it's, sequel, requel, whatever it is, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
They say, this is that blank. So that means everything goes out the window.
Yeah, it never does.
I mean, you've been saying that since the second one. Why do you have to keep repeating the same thing?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, the first rule is, there really are no more rules. Everybody's
even
fair
legacy
game.
characters can die.
Yeah, it's like, okay, great. Thanks for the info. Really needed that speech.
They always say legacy characters can die, and they really do not hold that rule in any way, shape, or form. Anyway,
in this movie they do.
No. Next one, yes. And we meet, the deputies, Judy Hicks, who seems to really be infatuated with Dewey. And you find out how weird that is with Scream 5. If you really think about the math. She's making him, lemon bars, stuff like that. You can tell Gail is intimidated by her just because she's younger. She's Sydney's age. But she seems to really crush on Dewey, I'd say. And the other cops, played by Adam, whatever his name is, from the OC or whatever, and Anthony Anderson. They're kind of the new Deweys. I'd say the kind of dumb cops.
Well, I mean, to be fair, this is a small town. All the cops are dumb.
Yeah.
And they all are. I mean, yeah, there's no good cop in this scenario. I mean, Dewey would be the best of the bunch, but that's not saying a whole lot.
Yes. So anyway, Sydney's staying at her cousin's house with her aunt. They call it the Grim Reaper, just because everyone around her always dies. There's cops stationed outside. Her friend Olivia happens to live right next door to her. Kirby's staying the night there just to be there for her. And while this is going on, they get a phone call thinking it's Trevor kind of again.
Well, okay. Now this part annoyed the shit out of me because she gets home and then she goes, oh, maybe I'll come over with you guys. They're like, oh yeah, come on over. She's like, oh, wait, no, I changed my mind. I don't want to do that. I want to go home where no one is. Her parents are out of town. She would be in the house completely by herself.
Yes.
Knowing that there's danger around. I don't understand the logic behind this, but continue.
Yeah. Very, very, very fair. Um, so anyway, they get a phone call, and it's the voice talking to the. He always acts like so nice to talk to you again, Sid. Even though it's clearly new Ghostface.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah, because they do that with all of them, to where like the voice has his own memory somehow.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, even though it's a different character in every movie, the voice pretends like they're like an omniscient, all-knowing voice that every conversation the voice has ever had, it knows about.
Yes, he's the watcher.
Right, apparently.
So, hey, look in the closet. I know you're watching Shaun of the Dead, which they played a great scene from Shaun of the Dead, by the way. They go in the closet. Nope, I didn't say I was in your closet. And they burst out and see Olivia just getting brutally murdered, like probably the most savagely murdered that we've seen at this point in time in this franchise.
Well, again, because I think at this point they're trying to like kind of sort of revitalize Scream and realizing the mistakes they made in 1 through 3, kind of moving. Well, I think we talked about it last episode where they kind of pushed the horror towards that PG-13 realm, and I think they realized that they were the cause of some of that. So I think they were trying to turn it back, is what I think they were trying to do with this movie.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it like a true horror franchise instead of just like the kind of, I guess, I don't want to say mockery, because that's not really fair. But I mean, like, when 3 came out, it was not. It was more of a joke than not.
Correct. So they see their friend getting killed. Sydney goes over there to confront the new Ghostface. She gets a couple of great hits. Cops finally burst in. They run around the house and can't find Ghostface. But Sydney is sliced a little bit. I think Jill is as well.
Yeah.
So they go to the hospital and they get patched up. And, Rebecca, played by Alison Brie, essentially goes, you know what? This is great publicity for your book. We can use these murders. And get, it's like, no, that's gross.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is she's right. She is absolutely right. Like, you could catapult your book into like the bestseller list with this stuff. I mean, easily.
Yeah.
So she's not wrong. She's thinking about the money. I mean, morally wrong, sure, but she's not wrong when it comes to money. I mean, she's thinking ahead. She's doing her job as a PR person.
I mean, it's what Gail would have done.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Easily.
But, Sydney doesn't want to be Gail. But obviously they're on good terms at this point.
Right.
So, she's like, I don't want to send her a message. You can give me a message. The message is you. And poor Alison Brie gets killed and then thrown off the hospital roof, onto the cop car after. It was like, we got this under control. There's nothing to see here.
Smash.
He goes like, sure you do, Dewey.
And that's like literally what they say. Like they look at Gail looks at the body and is like, okay, sure, Dewey.
Right.
That's not the reaction you should get from seeing a dead person.
I mean, at this point in time, I guess they're jaded.
I guess, yeah. To be fair, between Dewey and Gail, I'm pretty sure they're used to it by now.
But I mean, that was, I feel like, a very low blow.
Yeah.
To her husband. Undermining the sheriff like that in public.
Well, yeah, but they're like also, I believe they're married in real life at this point.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, because if they were just going to act like a normal married couples portraying married couples in movies are notoriously bad.
Yeah.
So I think they had to inject a little bit of animosity between them to make it tolerable. I think that's why they did that.
That's fair. So anyway, they go, there's this AV club at the high school that Charlie and Robbie are in charge of. Cinema Club, which is one step above Glee Club, I think they said, but below like women's hockey or something like that.
That's fair.
And like, oh man, if we can get Sydney there, that does give us some street cred. And there's
so it's Charlie, played by Rory Culkin,
Yes.
And then his buddy, who I don't remember his name, but he's
Robbie.
basically but he's basically like the guy he's wearing like a headset with a webcam attached to it, and he's streaming his like entire life.
So he's an influence before influencers.
Right. Yeah. This is before the takeoff of people filming their whole life all the time. This is like he's like a trendsetter.
Yeah, and Gail's there, and they go, "Here's the rules of a remake."
Right.
The only way
Rule
to
1,
survive.
there are no more rules. Rule 2, everything's bigger and badder and crazier. Great, thanks. Same 2 fucking rules from the last 3 movies. Appreciate it.
And you have to pay homage to the original. And the only being a virgin doesn't matter anymore. The only surefire way is to be gay. This exact quote from the movie.
Right.
From Robbie's character. And Gail's like, "Hey, is that thing on?" "Yeah." "Hey, how'd you like to help me out investigate stuff?" "Cool." Right?
Well, they say, "Yeah, that'd be great." Like, what are you going to give us in return? And she's like, "Oh, well." Oh, wait, no, that already happened. That's why she was there.
Yeah.
Because I believe Sydney was there too, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we had to have the whole class of it, and they're like, well, this all ends with a big house party. There's no house parties going on, except Stabathon, where they show all 7 movies in a barn, and they still are allowed to have this movie marathon, which is pretty incredible.
Well, to be fair, it's a secret underground thing. Gail has to follow them there because they won't even tell her where it is.
That's true.
It's like a no adults allowed thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like at an abandoned farm on the edge of town.
Yeah. So Gail kind of, I would say, in probably the cringiest thing I've ever seen, where she does like put the mask on, does a little dance, and tries to be one of the teenagers. She starts playing her own webcams throughout the barn, and she goes into her car. So this is a good homage to her putting the camera in Scream 1, which is following the rules of the remake at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So she sneaks in there, puts the mask on, does the cameras, and realizes they're all starting to get turned. She calls Dewey to say where she's at. It's at this old farm, like on Route 6, or whatever this is, but the killer's here. I can see him on the cameras. And then she goes in there and realizes that there's another camera there, and she's trying to set hers up, and she gets stabbed, in the gut and in the shoulder?
Yeah, well, she gets stabbed she gets stabbed in the shoulder.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think, they were like fighting back and forth. I think she might have got a couple other nicks, but that was the main stab, was the first stab in the shoulder.
Yeah. Right.
But as normal for this franchise, the stabs have no real bearing on whether they're like they hurt you or not. It's purely plot device, whether these are bad stabs or okay stabs.
Well, as we'll get into it, there's essentially, the anti-shark spray from Batman. These people take anti-stab sprays or pills because stabs do nothing to people anymore.
Well, okay, to be fair, that is kind of how it is in real life. Because you can literally, there's people that have been stabbed like 30, 40 times and have been okay. And then there's people who have gotten stabbed once and died. It depends on where you get stabbed and how bad it is.
But if you get stabbed a couple times, you don't have that kind of strength to keep fighting that they show in these movies.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying this is a realistic depiction at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it is, to be fair, stabbing is a very unreliable way of killing someone. So it's to be expected, I guess, to a degree. But in this franchise, I mean, like, again, it's purely plot device, whether the stab actually hurts you long term or not. Because some people get really bad stabs, and like the next scene, they're fine.
Poor Putty got stabbed once.
Yeah, exactly. And then he's down, he's out. He's a bodyguard.
Dewey gets stabbed like 30 times.
Right.
Lives.
Yeah, and he's fine. And like he got stabbed once, and he lost the use of like the whole side of his body, and he got stabbed again, and then he got his arm back.
Yes.
And then he just had a slight limp. So I mean, sometimes the stabs are healing over time.
And his limp's gone.
Right.
In this. Anyway,
it does come back though in the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Sydney, is at her house, doesn't know what Jill's at. It seems like she thinks she's there. And finally, her aunt comes home with groceries, scares her because of the wind chimes, and they get both attacked. And well, then her aunt gets stabbed in the back neck through the mail slot. And the Adam and Anthony are sitting outside cops talking about the rules of cops in horror movies and other movies. Like, cops always die first, unless they're heroes, or if it's the 1 day or a month left to retirement, and they get stabbed, pretty well. And Anthony Adams' last words were "fuck Bruce Willis."
Yeah,
after getting stabbed in the face. I think that'd be. Or no, he gets stabbed like right in the middle of the forehead.
Yes.
And still gets out and was able to walk around a little bit and still say fuck Bruce Willis.
Yes.
Because the joke was that unless you're Bruce Willis and you're a cop, you die.
Correct.
So they're all dead. And then we kind of have the after party of the stuff. So the remaining people and Trevor show up at Kirby's house. And, let's see here. And Robbie is getting kind of drunk. Kirby is starting to show her street cred with horror movies to Charlie, who clearly like each other. But Robbie gets killed, but even though he shouts out "I'm gay," and still gets killed, so his own rule doesn't work.
The rule only works if it's true.
Right. Sydney kind of shows up to get her cousin out of there. They're both kind of chased. Dewey gets called as well. And we see, and she tries to find Jill. And then I think Kirby, there's a bunch of fake outs of who's the killer, because they're running out of people left alive.
Well, yeah, Trevor shows up out of nowhere. And then Trevor goes, I'm going to go find Jill. But then he disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's all kinds of fake outs all over the place. So, like, everybody involved in this situation at one point is getting finger pointed to kind of suggest that they're the killer.
Kirby, who only wears black and white, was kind of alluded to be Ghostface because that's the colors of Ghostface costume.
Well, yeah, but not only that, but they're in her house, and this is the weird thing, is because, this is the main living room, and all the movies above the TV are her movies. So it's like, I mean, they never show her parents or even mention them. So it's like, maybe she doesn't even have parents.
Maybe.
It's possible. But anyway, they're going over her movie shelf, and they're calling out old classic horror movies. Like a lot of them Argento movies and stuff like that. So it's they're saying she's a true horror connoisseur. So yeah, so they're talking it might be her, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, again, they're pointing to everybody at this point.
Right. So we kind of have those, fake outs of people jumping out of corners. Where were you? Where were you? All that stuff. I think Charlie gets knocked out, and Kirby finds him all tied up and gagged, just like Steve was outside the deck in the very first one, showing this is kind of a remake. Yeah. She unties him.
Well, she gets the phone call asking the trivia questions. And she actually is good at horror movies, so she answers all the questions correctly.
Yeah, she does. She is a horror hound, for sure.
Connoisseur. She prefers the term connoisseur.
Yes. But she enjoys all things horror, not just, as we get in number 5, the elevated horror that those characters seem to only like.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Which we also enjoy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of the movies that she talks about were good. I'm like, I don't know what you mean by elevated. I think you just mean modern.
Yes.
That doesn't follow the traditional slasher formula. I think that's what she means by elevated. But
I think so, too. But that always confused me, too.
But again, I am with her. Well, I guess we'll talk about it more. But I'm with her because, again, I fell out of the horror genre because I could not stand the formulaic horse shit that was around all the time. And It Follows, one of the movies that she mentions, is one of the movies that brought me back in.
Right.
So I guess I can understand what she's saying. But anyway, that's the next movie. Continue.
Yes. But Charlie essentially gets his "we all go a little crazy sometimes" moment. And, right. And stabs Kirby, leaving her to bleed out and die. Just one stab. I don't know, why the rule of one would only work for her.
Well, again, yeah, it's a plot device. This is a bad stab, but like Gale got stabbed earlier and she was fine. Again, it's a purely plot device whether the stabs actually hurt you or not.
Yeah.
But it is heavily insinuated that she died. They do not technically show her dead body or say that she's dead at this point, but she does not reappear, and it's just assumed that she's dead.
Correct. And then there's a fight, and then we find out that the second ghost-faced is somehow this 5'3" little girl.
Yeah, I don't understand, because they're both short, and like Ghostface was tall.
Yes.
So I don't understand how that worked, but okay.
High heels. I don't know.
Apparently, they're wearing like platform shoes that give them like an extra 6 inches of height.
And much stronger, too.
Oh, of course, yeah. They have an exoskeleton. Exosuit, one of those, like, industrial suits.
So it's revealed to be Jill, and she's talking, and she goes into her whole spiel. She's like, I want to be just like you, Sydney. That she's doing it out of jealousy. I want to be the sole survivor. And, this time you won't be survivor. I'm going to be the victim. And she goes through her whole thing, and you killed your own mother. Well, your mother died too, blah, blah, blah. And we see the most damage Sydney's ever taken.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
She doesn't. It's not like she took a lot of damage to begin with, ever. What I mean? Physical damage, at least. So she goes through this, and she starts. And she's like, "Oh, well, Trevor's going to be the frame," and she kills and betrays, or not? Yeah, it's going to be Trevor's going to be Ghostface, and his partner is going to be Charlie. Just remaking. She wants to remake, Sydney's life from Scream 1 to be in the limelight, to be the hero victim. And she does a lot of damage to Sydney, and then she start mutilating herself to make it look like she's, been attacked as well by Trevor and Charlie, that she fought them off and survived. And then she kind of lays the same way that Sydney's their lane. Stuff like that. So, Sydney and Jill are taken to the hospital. And then, Jill finds out that Sydney actually survived, so she starts to go on a little rampage. But Dewey and Gale and Sheriff Judy Hicks,
well, she's not about sheriff yet,
or Deputy Judy Hicks.
There you go.
Talking about this, and it's like, oh, Jill wanted to let me know that she's like, you're gonna have a scar in the because you were stabbed in the same spot she was. And Gale goes, we never told anyone that. Dun dun dun.
Right.
And then it's like, Jill's a killer, and they find her out. I think Jill shoots Deputy Hicks, and then starts to kind of finish off Sydney, but then she uses a defibrillator and essentially shocks her, and then shoots her in the chest and dies. Deputy Hicks survives because wear a vest, save your chest.
That's right.
And then we, hear reporters outside that, it's calling that Jill kind of the sole surviving hero of this new remake. End of movie.
Correct.
So we'll go into first thoughts. I thought this was definitely a return to form for Scream, especially after Scream 3. When I saw this in theaters, I'm like, man, this is what Scream should have been, continuing going forward. Chronology confused about the stab movies. That there are 7 of them, except number 5 includes time travel, and only the first 3 are about Sydney. But overall, I thought this was, they started the idea of, because this time frame we got all the remakes of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, and this is them going, hey, this is a popular thing to do. We're doing a remake of our own, but still going to be like a legacy character remake.
Right.
I thought they did a really good job with it. I think it paid homage to the original. I thought it was just all around good Scream movie. But what are you? I know this is your first time seeing it, but
Mhm.
what were your first thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean it was a good movie. I mean it's definitely better than 3. Um, I'd put it's right about the same as Scream 2, maybe a wee bit higher than Scream
Okay.
2. Um, I mean, again, it's decent. I mean, again, you expect the fourth one in the franchise, especially after waiting a decade, to just be a kind of lazy cash in.
Mm-hmm.
And at least it doesn't do that. It does, give you enough of with this movie to make you feel like, okay, this was interesting enough. Like I'm not upset I
Yeah.
watched this, like this is, yeah, it's fun enough. Like at the end, oh, did I expect Jill to be the killer? No, not at all. I did not see that coming. Again, they push heavy on Trevor being the guy. I knew it wasn't him because they were pushing on him too hard.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't call it. I was kind of sort of thinking it was Charlie and the webcam guy.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I guess I was kind of half right, but that doesn't count.
Well, let's face it. Rory Culkin is creepy as hell in this movie.
Well, he's creepy in general, but yeah,
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like he seemed too obvious of the answer, but I mean he was it.
right,
But yeah, Jill all of a sudden that the man strength that she had for some of these, it didn't make sense.
right. Yeah, no, yeah, I get it. I mean, it's again when Ghostface was around, very tall, very large, very like intimidating physically, and like
Yeah.
both of them were not that.
No.
You're talking like Jill and what was the hell's
Charlie.
Charlie? Jill and Charlie are about the same size. I mean, they're like like maybe 120 pounds soaking wet, right?
Oh, if
I mean, they're like
that.
tiny, tiny little things. There's no way that they're going to be throwing people like up against walls and like you know what I mean. Like the way that they were doing it, there's no way that
Mhm.
that would happen unless they were like jacked up on PCP or something. But like, yeah, I don't see that. I don't see it happening. So that part, it was kind of hard to gauge that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, you're trying to say like, okay, well, that's the other thing. Like you try. I've always tried doing this in movies. Like, okay, like who is the person that's in that suit? Who's the person behind the mask? You look at like the builds,
Hmm.
like how big they are, how tall they are, and you can't do that because they purposely put a different person in the suit to make sure that you can't figure it out,
Correct.
which is unfair, I think. But I get they want to keep their whodunit secret till the
Hmm.
end, and it's not really something you can guess. But I
Yeah.
guess that's the whole thing with Scream is you're not supposed to guess who it is. They're usually like out of left field and somebody that you don't suspect at all,
Correct.
or at least one of them.
there's not too many hints. Too many hints. I mean, it's fun to go back and see and figure out who's done what of the killings and who was where.
Right, right,
Because when in Scream One where Sydney was attacked, there's actually two ghost faces there. Both of them were there. That's how they were able to hit both doors pretty much simultaneously. Um, but highlights for me, I mean, I think this was for it being trying to be a remake, and considering the crap that we got this time frame of actual remakes or continuations of the franchises, this is hands down far better. We had Kevin Williamson come back to write it, so we had the original writer, we had the original director, and because he didn't do Scream 3, and it really, really
yeah,
shows.
shock.
I know. I mean, Wes directed it, but Kevin Williamson did not write it, and this is like as we discussed, like the return to form that when someone starts a franchise, when they come back, you can tell the difference, and I think that really, and that's you can really tell a difference with this.
And that's fair. I mean, I'll say. I mean, my high point in this was just, they're trying to go back to those horror roots where they show like blood and
Mm-hmm.
guts and like things happening. Like Olivia murdered in that room. That room was covered in blood. There was
Yes,
blood everywhere. They
and
showed her
guts hanging
body
out.
like intestines are hanging
Yeah.
out and stuff, which had never on the other
Yep.
previous Scream movies. It had always just been a stab, maybe blood, maybe a pool of blood,
Yep.
but never like gruesome. And this was like gruesome, and like I think they were purposely doing that to kind of distance itself from like the kind of PG-13 crap that evolved out of the original Scream movie. I think they did that on purpose, and I do like that they did that. I think that was a high point.
And did they mention, was it this one or the next one? They mentioned the torture porn. That's not good horror movies.
I think that's the next one.
Okay.
I think that was the same conversation as the elevated horror.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, this is like, okay, we had the remakes of slashers. Here's what a slasher is supposed to be. And they definitely did that.
Yeah, no, and they did, and that's fair. I'll just roll right into my low points here. For some reason, there is a problem with whoever made the stabbing the way. Okay, because when you stab someone in this movie, for whatever reason, they only stab the first inch or two of the blade in, and they don't push the knife all the way in. And they do that in a lot of different scenes, and there's all this blood pouring out of this wound that they barely stick in there. It's very odd. I don't know who did the special effects for this. I don't know. Obviously, they did some great things, right? Because that's my high point. They did some fantastic stuff, but then there's other scenes where you're like, what's going on? Like the scene with Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin. When she stabs her in the stomach, it's barely there. It's an inch into her stomach, but there's blood everywhere.
She barely touched her belly.
Right. But that's not the only time that happens in the movie. There's several other scenes where that same thing happens, where the knife barely enters their body, but there's blood everywhere. And they're acting like this is a, mortal wound when it the knife barely, broke the skin. And I don't understand that. I don't get it. I was like, why? What is going on? But again, this movie is really what I started noticing that, whether you are hurt or not from the stab is a purely plot device. It makes no difference how brutally you're attacked or anything. That doesn't matter. It's whether purely plot device, whether they want you to survive or not. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. That's a good low point.
Also,
I know a lot of people
they talk about all these legacy characters and how all the legacy characters are probably going to be gone out, and none of them go out.
Not a single one.
Nope. Not at all.
The core 4 survive. Well, 3.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a core 3 from the original.
It was core 4 originally.
It was.
We'll think about how many are left at the series.
Well, it was core 4 until 2. I mean, they didn't last very long.
Yeah. Yeah. Low points. I mean, I still think this was a lot of people say a horror movie is a product of its time frame. And, it looked very different than the 90s shot Screams that we're used to. But something felt off about the cinematography of this movie. I don't know what it is, but it just seemed very off. I don't know if it's just the era that this was in. But it seemed to be grittier, right?
I think it's just the era, because this is the era of a lot of found footage movies.
Yeah.
And I think in order for normal studio movies to keep their edge around those movies, they like you said, they keep it a slightly rougher. And I think it gives it that slightly more realistic feeling edge. And like I said, it's not found footage. In no way would you ever look at this and see found footage, but I think it gives that kind of that feeling, right? That uneasy, rough feeling, and I think that's just what they're going for. A lot of movies around this time period did that same thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because we're just getting out of the torture porn phase,
right? At
this point. All right, so I'll go first for a number of stabs out of 10. I have to look up what I gave the other ones. I know this is better than
1, 2, 3, 9, 8, 5 for you for 1, 2, 3.
Yes. I really like Scream 2. I really like this one too. So this is probably going to stay an 8 for me. I like it just as much as Scream 2. So 8 stabs out of 10. How about you?
I mean, I like this one. I definitely do. I don't. It's definitely better than 3. In my mind, I think it's just a tad better than 2. So I will give it a 5.5. 5.5 stabs out of 10.
5.5. So you still need a beer to watch it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one again. There's to watch it again. It's like, I don't know.
But you're not mad you watched it.
No, not at all. No, it was a good watch. It was fun.
Okay.
I said I like the beginning. I know you thought like you're gonna hate the beginning. I don't hate the beginning. The beginning was fun. I like Anna Paquin. I like Kristen Bell. It was fun.
Well, I'm just saying how much you hated the meta in 2 and 3.
I hated the meta in 3 because they tried to do all this like insider Hollywood garbage, which no one knows. I mean, yes, everybody making the movie knows it because they're in the movie industry, but everybody else doesn't understand your stupid insider movie humor. And like 50% of the movie hinged on that shit. And I think it was just a big fail to do that. And a lot of movies do that. A lot of franchises do that, where they do like their Hollywood one, where it's like I feel like it's lazy, right? Because it's easy for them because they all know it, and it's like it's boring for us because we don't.
Oh, every sci-fi show does it.
Yeah, they do.
They always find the way.
Yep.
All right. Well, then, Mr. Salem, why don't you bring us into Scream 2022 or Scream 5?
Well,
what it should be.
We all call it Scream 5,
right,
but it's technically just Scream. But yes,
which is a parody of the remakes or the sequels that come out that have the same exact title, like Halloween. So we have to put in the year so we know which one it's
right
is.
Yeah, like I hate that. Like I was like looking for this movie and I'm like typing in Scream 5 and no results. I'm like, what? But yeah, it's because again, it's just Scream. It's stupid. And again, even like they know it because you type in Scream and then there's like the first Scream movie poster and then the second Scream and it says there's a little thing on top that says all new movie. So like obviously people are confused about this. So why would you do that?
I think this is their meta commentary on doing it. They had to have done it.
I guess. I don't know. It's just stupid. I think they were just trying to like reboot the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not in character wise, not with people that know the franchise, but I think just for outside folks, to kind of reboot it to make it seem like it's new. I think that was just their distancing themselves from the whole Weinstein thing. I believe.
Yeah,
I think that's just their way of doing it, which they gave up in the next one anyway. So whatever.
Yep. All right. So why don't you do our recap for us then?
Okay. So it starts off with essentially Jenna Ortega is taking the Drew Barrymore role of the girl alone in the house. I'm going to watch some scary movies, but this time, she's more knowledgeable than Drew Barrymore was. Drew Barrymore knew some in that movie, right? But, Jenna Ortega knows a lot. Now, I guess I'm confused. I guess I'm getting old because I don't understand how young people are supposed to be in movies anymore. And Jenna Ortega seems very young in this movie. I mean, she looks very young. She's tiny. So she looks like a child to me. Like to me in this movie, I assumed she was like 13 or 14. Right? I mean, I guess maybe you stretch it to like 16, possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It just seemed off to me. She seemed very, very young. But I think that's just because she appears very young and she's also very little, which gives you that kind of childlike thing, which is a little more noticeable in the next movie. This movie, they did okay with keeping her like looking normal height. In the next movie, she looks like everyone's like towering over her by like at least a foot, like everyone.
Yes.
So it's a little more obvious in the next one. This one they did a fairly decent job. And that's because in this scene, she gets attacked and stabbed badly, but she does survive. And that's why, for the next most of the movie, she's laying in a hospital bed. So you don't get to see how short she really is because she's in a hospital bed. But yeah, there's the whole
Laurie Strode Halloween 2.
Right. Yeah, there's the whole phone tag thing where he's asking her what her favorite horror movie is. And then, like we were talking about the last one, she was talking about how she likes elevated horror movies, and her favorite movie is The Babadook, which I've never seen. Have you ever seen Babadook?
Yeah.
Is it elevated? Is it good? I don't know. I've never seen it.
Not really.
Anyway, she mentioned
the
It Follows.
She list off were fantastic.
Yeah, the other movies she listed, I saw all those. Like It Follows was a fantastic movie. I love that movie. But yeah, Babadook never saw it, but she was saying this is her favorite movie. It's an elevated horror movie, as she says. Kind of poo-pooing the whole classic slasher genre. Kind of saying that she doesn't like the whole torture porn genre. I get all that. That's fine. But anyway, she seems like she knows what she's talking about. She's kind of like a kind of sewer almost.
Well, yeah, the movies she mentions, ask me anything about It Follows, The Witch, Hereditary, all great movies.
Right. Yeah. Again, I've seen all those. They are great. I agree. That's why it's just weird that like the Babadook is the one she focuses on. I never saw it. I don't know. So anyways, yeah, so back and forth, asking her trivia questions, which she gets right. And then the only one she gets kind of wrong, which is a technicality, as he asks her who the bad guys were in the first Stab movie. And she says Billy Loomis, but the correct answer is Billy Loomis and Stu Macher. His first name is Stu and his last name is Macher?
Yep.
Okay, that's bizarre. Like I thought his last name was Stu Macher and everybody just called him Stu, but whatever. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because all the questions that he's asking are about the first Stab movie.
Right. Which she clearly says she only saw like once a long time ago, but she still answers all the questions correctly. So like she must have a great memory.
Yes.
But again, he gets around a technicality, and again, attacks happen. She gets stabbed in the back, but she survives. And basically, the next scene is her sister, who's like her estranged sister, because her mom is like in London at some conference or something. That's why she was home alone. And her estranged sister that left home like 5 years ago. I think they said 5 years ago, right?
Yes.
5 years ago.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Hold on. I know they said how old did they say Jenna Ortega or Tara? Her character name is Tara. How old did they say Tara was when she left?
11 or 12.
Okay, maybe that. Yeah, I guess I missed that. I guess I just was going on purely what she appeared to be. I think that's why I was like 14. I was like, yep, that's what she looks like.
Because there's a 7-year age difference between her and her sister, I believe.
Okay, and
her
to be
sister left
fair,
when she was 18.
Yeah. Okay. And so that tracks. That tracks, right? So then sorry.
Yeah.
A little bit of a spoiler for the next one. She's in college. So I guess, yeah, she would be like 18 now and then 19 in the next one, right?
Something like that, yeah. Or 7. Like I was 17 in high school. So.
Well, I was supposed to graduate when I was 17, but we'll leave that for another day. So I guess if I would have paid more attention to the numbers, I would have known that she was 17 anyway. In this movie, it doesn't matter. It only matters for the next movie, which I will get into that. So her estranged sister that had left 5 years ago and it does not contact the family, her kind of friend group, Tara's friend group, was all the people that her sister Sam used to watch, like babysit for. Right. So they all still kind of have connections to her. So the one guy, Wes, who's in that friend group, he calls her to let her know that Tara was attacked. She obviously panics.
Stabbed.
Yeah. She panics and goes, okay, I have to come back. Her boyfriend, Richie, that works with her at a bowling alley. I think it was a bowling alley. She says, I have to go back. And Richie says, well, of course I'm coming with you. So they go back to Woodsboro. This is happening in Woodsboro again. So they go back, she's all, Tara and Sam have kind of like a reunited kind of thing, because they haven't talked in a long time. Tara's like kind of shocked that she came. They have a kind of a bonding moment. But yeah, we're kind of introduced to their friend group, and their friend group is the twins, Mindy and Chad.
Yep.
And then there's Chad's girlfriend, Liv. And then
Amber,
her friend. Amber's like her best friend,
who was going to get killed if she didn't answer correctly in the opening.
Right.
Scene.
Yeah, that was the thing that she was trying to answer questions for, was for Amber not to get killed, because Amber was supposed to come over and watch movies with her.
Yeah. And then Wes.
And Wes, yeah, the guy who originally called her. At this point, they don't explain any of the relationships. At this point, we don't get to that till later. But they just kind of introduce these characters. Mm-hmm. So they kind of like, they all go out to like a bar, I guess, but they're like high school kids. So maybe it was just like a hangout
pool
place.
hall. Pool hall.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I went to pool halls when I was in high school, but they don't really have those anymore. But
No.
maybe they still do in Woodsboro, I guess.
In rich people towns, maybe they still do.
Yeah, that's possible. It's possible. So they're all like hanging out and playing pool. There's this guy who is like Liv, right? Yeah, Chad's girlfriend Liv had this like ex-boyfriend who's like an older dude, like a creepy dude, who's like kind of like following her around. And again, he like comes in the bar and like, you know, kind of, I don't know, kind of what like basically like date rapey hits on her. I mean, it's like bizarrely weird. So like him and Chad get kind of a little spat and they kick him out. And then we are kind of shown a scene where he's like all drunk and pissing on the building outside. And then Ghostface comes in and kills him. And then it like later on
before.
What's that?
What song do we finally get again?
Oh yeah, we finally get Red Right Hand at this point. It's playing in his cool hot rod car that he had. Well, sorry, muscle car that he has.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the only movie, well, sorry, 1, 2, 3 all had that song in it.
Yep.
4 did not, which is bizarre because it's the original writer and the original director. They should bring back the original song.
Yeah.
They did not, but it is back in this one. So yeah, that stalker murder happens, and then everybody kind of gathers together, and they're trying to figure out, like, okay, like Ghostface, it seems like he has a purpose. Like, why would he kill this guy? And that's when everybody kind of starts talking about who they are, right? And we find out that the twins, Mindy and Chad, are nephew and niece of Randy from the original one. So like his sister that showed up very briefly in Scream 3 actually shows up as their mom in this one. Yep. She does like a very quick, like handing out brownies or something, you know, just to kind of show that it's her.
An orange drink. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's their relationship. We find out that Wes is the child of once Deputy Judy, now Sheriff Judy.
Yep.
And of course, well, okay. Well, we don't find that out till a little bit later, right? Or no, this is the point where she tells Tara, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they all like have their revelation or whatever, and then Sam and Tara kind of have this thing where everybody leaves the room, and Sam basically tells Tara why she left. And she says that she was reading some old diaries in the attic, and she found out that dear old mom did not have her with her dad, or with Tara's dad, like the guy that she was dating in high school. She actually cheated on him, and her real dad is Billy Loomis.
Yes, so retconning the movie to have legacy characters.
Well, it's not necessarily retconning. I mean, because it was like a hidden thing that she didn't find out until later. It's very convenient. Yeah. I will give you that. It's very convenient and a very convenient plot device, but it doesn't break anything from the old movies. At least is it kind of like Hammy where you roll your eyes when you hear it? A little bit. I mean, yeah, that's very fair. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's very convenient, but doesn't technically break anything. Anyway, so her real dad is Billy Loomis, and she left because she was afraid that Billy Loomis's legacy would somehow make her a killer, and she would hurt her sister, which that was the last thing she ever wanted to do. So she left. And that's why. Tara gets very upset and kind of tells her to go away. You know, I mean, again, there's a whole lot of things happening in her life. I get that. That's fine.
Yep.
So at this point, they're like, okay, well, there's more going on here. We need to kind of recruit help. So they go find Dewey, who is at this point living in a trailer, not doing well, apparently divorced or at least separated from Gail. Because like we are introduced to him, like he wakes up in the morning and then like turns on, you know, Good Morning, whatever it was, starring Gail Weathers, doing a morning show by herself, which I've never seen a morning show. Only one person, never in my life. But yeah, so she's doing a morning show and he like gets up and watches her every day. So obviously something happened to where she's in Hollywood or, you know, she's in wherever being a news star and he's living in a trailer. And obviously not the sheriff anymore.
They asked him to leave.
Right. Well, we find out later that they asked him to retire. So yeah, Sam and Richie go to Dewey's place to kind of recruit him to help. And he gives them like a couple minutes. And he basically gives them the rundown of the rules, saying like, yeah, don't trust anybody. Like, who's this guy? And she's like, oh, this is my boyfriend. How long have you known him? 6 months. He's like, yeah, he's a suspect.
Yep.
Like, don't trust anyone. And he's like, oh, thanks. But yeah, so again, essentially that's all he says is like, don't trust anybody. Again, the rules are everybody's going to die. The rules are there are no rules and everything's going to get worse. So just don't do anything. And then they decide to, they leave. And then like immediately after, Dewey just decides to join them anyway. But the next major thing that happens is Ghostface goes after Sheriff Judy.
Yep.
So Wes is Sheriff Judy's son. So she's like, at home in like her plain clothes, she's going to go get some sushi for dinner. And she tells Wes to take a shower. And an interesting twist, the guy is the one taking the shower and gets like the shower scene. I mean, the Scream doesn't show nudity, but as close as they get, it's the guy this time, which was interesting.
Yep.
So Sheriff Judy is going to go pick up sushi, and then the voice calls her in the truck, in her police truck that she's using to go pick up sushi. Basically telling her that, he's going to kill the son. So she squeals, puts on the sirens, goes back to the house, basically immediately gets killed. And then she gets killed, and then Wes is also killed. Both pretty brutally. I mean, there's a lot of they show the knife going in and doing damage and cutting and blood and there's
it went through the side of his neck, so you can see skin over the blade.
Right. Yeah, and then it came out the back of his neck. I mean, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So they're all there, and so of course all the police go there because their sheriff was attacked, right? So they're all there. Dewey shows up I've decided to help you guys, I'm gonna do this with you. So they're all sitting there, and then they're like, Sam was like, oh, wait a minute. She sees the cop that was guarding her sister in the hospital. And she's like, well, if you're here, who's watching her in the hospital? And he just kind of goes, duh, 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 duh. He doesn't say anything. And she just freaks out going, we got to get to the hospital. Right. So her and Richie and Dewey all get in a car and head to the hospital. And they get to the hospital. Now,
but you got to mention who's back in town. After hearing this news. Yeah.
Well, Gail shows up right at the end of this sheriff murder thing.
Yes.
And she tries to get in on the investigation, and Dewey just kind of pushes her away. And they get their little kind of reunion thing where we find out that she moved to New York to take on this new challenge. And Dewey went with her, and he could only handle it for a couple of months before he kind of just ran out in the middle of the night.
Yep.
And went back to Woodsboro. So, and then apparently started a downward spiral where they forced him to retire. Anyway, and so that's why he's living in the trailer. So anyway, so they're kind of overly saccharine, I would say, reunion of theirs. I felt like it went a little overboard, but I mean, we'll find out why in a minute here.
Well, we get Dewey's theme song though.
We do get Dewey's theme song. It does come back. That is correct. So now this is the interesting part. I'm just gonna say this now because I thought it was very funny. It is broad daylight when Sheriff Judy is killed. I mean, we're talking noon
on her front porch.
Right? Yeah, on her front porch. It is broad daylight. It is noon. No one shows up to find her dead body for minutes. Okay, which is one thing. Two, while they're driving from Sheriff Judy's house to the hospital that's in the same town, the sun goes down.
I mean, they took the same route that they do in Halloween.
Right. But it was like immediately it started getting dark. I'm like, it was just noon. Why is it dark? Like, what happened? And it's like summertime. So it like went from like noon to like 9 p.m. and like 1 15-minute car ride. Anyway, it doesn't really take away a whole lot. I just thought it was very odd. Anyway, they get to this hospital, and it is obviously the most understaffed hospital I've ever seen. It's like
Halloween 2.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that. It's like just like Halloween 2, where there's no one working in this hospital. It's like there's no one anywhere. There's not even any other patients. There's just no one there at all. Again, we only see one other person that should have technically been working there, and that's the police officer that they see dead as they enter the building. There's no nurses in the nurse station. There's no nurses in the entire floor. No orderlies, no doctors, no nothing. The lights are off.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, what is happening in this hospital? So anyway, so they get in there, they see the cop dead. They're like, obviously something's going on here. They, of course, Ghostface is attacking everybody and making, phone calls, and everything's bad. So anyway, they get in a big kind of showdown fight. And they manage to escape, after, again, a significant struggle. Like, I think everybody gets stabbed at least once.
And Dewey does shoot Ghostface a couple of times.
Yeah, Dewey does shoot Ghostface a couple of times, and they all manage to get in the elevator, and they're all about to leave. And then Dewey goes, hold on, I have to go finish it. So he gets off the elevator, goes over to shoot them in the head, right? And then Ghostface gets up and immediately stabs him in the gut. And then pulls out another knife and then stabs him in the back, seeming like trying to like connect the holes.
Yep.
And it's
work his way up.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of blood. They're like pulling and twisting and moving the knives around. Like, it is not a good thing that's happening. And poor Dewey dies.
Yes, it takes a beat, like eviscerated.
Yeah. Poor Dewey is dead. First legacy character that goes down. Poor Dewey.
Yeah.
So they managed to get out. They're all kind of like, shocked. They all kind of, they don't know what to do at this point. Sydney actually enters at this point, in the hospital lobby. And it's kind of like, reunites with Gale. They have like their kind of tiffy thing, but they're fine. And then they meet Sam and Tara, and they kind of commiserate over Dewey's death and stuff like that. And they're kind of, Sydney asks, basically Sydney and Gale decide that they need to end this, right? They need to do something. They need to find this guy. They need to kill him. And they ask Sam for help. And Sam goes, no, I need to get my sister out of here. Like, we're done. So, they're like, okay. She's like, I understand. I get it. She does say at first, like, they'll find you wherever you go. The only way to end it is to go after them. And she goes, I appreciate that. Whatever. I just have to leave. I have to go. So they all get in the car and they go. So it's Sam, her boyfriend Richie, and then Tara. So they all get in the car and they leave. And then Tara realizes that she doesn't have her inhaler because she has asthma. Throughout the movie, she uses her inhaler at regular intervals. So they're like, oh, I don't have my inhaler. I don't know where it is. We'll have to go back and get it. She's like, no, we're not going back. Where can we get one? And she's like, oh, well, I left one at Amber's house. My best friend Amber's house. We'll stop there and we'll go get it.
Yep.
Okay. So then it cuts to Amber's house, and there's a house party there, and they're all partying. At first I was like, why the hell would they be having a party? But then there's a sign behind them that says like, for Wes. So apparently they're having a party to say goodbye to Wes. I'm like, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yes. And then essentially, Sydney and Gale follow them because they know they're like use them as bait essentially.
Yeah, Sydney puts like some kind of, she said she put a tracker on the car or something, whatever. She could have just followed him, doesn't matter. But anyway, so when they eventually get to the house, well, we see that Mindy and Chad and Liv and Amber are all at this party, and there's a whole bunch of other people. It's like a big house party.
Yep.
Anyway, so they're all like kind of doing the whole thing where they're like, oh, I need to go get beer in the basement, and the basement's like all spooky and stuff. And it's like Mindy and Amber have like a weird kind of standoff in the basement, where they're like both accusing each other of being the killer kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then that kind of passes. Anyway, and then so they show up at the house to go get the inhaler. And then Sydney and Gail see where they go on the map and they go, oh no. Right. And so when they get to the house, we find out that Amber's house is actually Randy's house, where the killings happen in the first movie.
Stu's house.
Oh, sorry, Stu's house. Yeah, so it's Stu's house. It's the same house that the murder party happened in the first one, where poor Rose McGowan got killed in the garage door. That is the house that they're at. So they're like, oh no, like the killer planned this. Like this is where they want her to go. So they get there. Yeah, there's like weird stuff where they kind of sort of point to Liv maybe being the killer, and then they're kind of, again, they're doing the pointing the fingers at everybody. This is the point in the movie where everybody gets the finger pointed at them. They have this part in I think every Scream movie, to where they're like, there's like this kind of like super cut of like everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else. And it's like, oh, where were you? Where were you? Where were you? Like, oh, it could have been you. Blah blah blah.
But Mindy essentially reenacts Randy's scene at the house party.
Correct. Yeah, but she goes over the rules and the legacy stuff and all that shit.
But she's alone, like laying on the couch, hugging the pillow, watching a horror movie, just like Randy did.
Right. Yeah. The whole turn around.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, shit starts to hit the fan. People start getting attacked. I think Chad is the first one to get attacked outside. He gets stabbed a whole lot outside.
A whole lot.
Yeah, a whole lot outside. Liv comes back in, and then Liv like has blood on her hands for some reason, and they're like, "Oh, it must be Liv. What's going on?" And then Amber just straight up shoots fucking Liv in the head.
Yep, we all go a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah, right? And it's like, whoa! And so they're like, okay, so Amber's the fucking killer, right? So then everybody's like running away from Amber. Bad shit's happening. People are hiding. Of course, phone calls are being made. The voice is all over the place.
Richie's hiding in the closet.
Yeah, right.
What? Was it Sydney or Gail that shoot into the closet, shoot him in the leg?
Yeah. They shoot him in the leg, and he's like, what are you doing? She's like, I told anybody who wasn't the killer to come out. He's like, I'm not going to fall for that, which is fair. I mean, yeah, I get it. Anyway, so he comes out. He manages to come downstairs. With with Sam. Mm-hmm. And then he as he's coming down the stairs, he just stabs her in the side.
Yep.
So at this point we find out that there's two killers, and it's Richie, the boyfriend, and Amber, Tara's best friend. And they basically reveal their whole plan to be, they wanted to revitalize the franchise because they were not happy with
Stab 8 was shit.
And they do show some funny clips from Stab 8, and it looked
gold
hilarious.
Mask, flamethrower.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, he had like a gold mask. He had like a sleeveless muscle shirt on.
Yeah,
with like these huge muscles and everything, and he was using like a flamethrower, and he was using like all these like swords and shit. I mean, it was like all this crazy stuff. It looked like a YouTube video. It looked like a parody, but apparently that was the real Stab 8. So they were so upset that Stab 8 was so bad that they met on an online forum, and they tried to revitalize it. So to
make their own.
Yeah, Richie purposely met up with Sam, knowing who she was, because apparently her mom was a drunk that told everybody in the town that Billy Loomis was the real dad, which is like, okay, so that wasn't a big reveal then, if everybody already knew it. But anyway, we didn't know that until this point. So they knew that. So he purposely, went out of his way to go there to meet up with her, to date her, to do that point. And Amber did the same thing with Tara, to be best friends with her so that they could, integrate themselves into this whole thing.
Yes.
Kind of back and forth, of course, stabbing, showdown. I guess I should also mention that at certain points in the movie, Sam does see Billy Loomis's ghost, kind of like giving her advice, like telling her like, yo, you should kill people. You should do bad things, but kind of sort of giving her good advice at the same time. telling her not to trust anybody, telling her that you have to end it, stuff like that. Anyway.
You want to stab people, right? It's fun. You should try.
Right, yeah. Shit like that. So anyway, so she, kind of kills Richie in a very, serial killer way. She stabs him like a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot. She goes a little crazy while she's doing so. Yeah, Amber, I think Sydney and Gail were fighting Amber. Amber gets shot and then gets lit on fire from the stove, which was funny because it was like the stove turned on and she lit up like she was covered in gasoline. I mean, like her back started on fire the second the fire touched her. I'm like, okay, that's not how fire works. But that's fine, whatever. And of course, she survives. Was shot. Yeah, Gail. Yeah, Gail was shot. Yeah, Sydney. But anyway, they managed to make it out of it. The only legacy that dies is Dewey.
Yep.
And then so they managed to survive, and now Sam and Tara are like, together again. And then Chad ends up surviving somehow,
and Mindy,
and Mindy survives. Yeah. Liv does not.
No,
Liv does not. Yeah, Wes does not. Yeah, so so there's a whole lot of deaths there, but they all survive. End of movie.
Well, okay, I have to point something out here because this is a big thing that I'm gonna have to point out in Scream 6. Gail promises not to write a new book about this to give notoriety. She's going to make it ambiguous, anonymous, and she's going to write a book about Dewey. Okay?
Well, I mean...
she says this in this movie.
Yeah, but that doesn't... Who gives a shit? She's not going to do that. We all know she's not going to do that.
I'm just saying that she made these promises in Scream 5.
She did, yes. That is true.
So... All right, so what were your first thoughts? This is your first time seeing it. Now, this only came out last year.
Yeah, it came out last. Yeah, this is the first time I watched it. I thought it was pretty good. I was expecting it to be horrible. Different director, different writer. Kind of renaming the thing, and all that. I expected it to be bad. It's not that bad. It's actually when we get to my low points, I'll explain, or I can start now if you want. I'll just. Basically, the thought that I had going through this is my low point. So
yeah, do that.
How bad of an actress Sam is. Oh man, it's okay. I will say that she has like standard acting for like horror movie acting, right? It's not great, but they put her in a lot of like emotional scenes when she's like telling Tara about her real dad and she's like crying and stuff. It is like not good. It doesn't come off as genuine at all. I mean, I felt like I was like, oh man, I was like cringing into myself. Like, this is bad. But I think it's so noticeable because all the people that she's interacting with are great. I mean, they're fantastic. Yes. Like Richie was fantastic. I mean, he was an awesome character. He was kind of like the jokey kind of comic relief most of the time, but he was great, against
he was his character in The Boys.
Right.
But seriously.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's like, yeah, just like Alison Brie was Alison Brie. I mean, that's who they are. But he was fantastic in this.
Yes.
Jenna Ortega was amazing. I mean, she was, played second fiddle to her, but she was like by far a better actress than she was. I mean, like those scenes, like Jenna Ortega was like stealing the scene away from her, even though it was supposed to be her big monologue scene. Like Jenna Ortega was like far and above better than she was in these scenes. And that just kind of took it away from me a bit because she was supposed to be like the star, and she was like the worst actress out of all of them.
So she didn't have the final girl acting chops.
Right.
She should have been the final
It's
girl.
usually like the final girl is the only one that can act. In this movie, it was like the complete opposite. Everybody was good except for her. I mean, I think even Mindy was better than she was.
Yes.
Like Mindy was a great character. I mean, she was funny, but also, interesting and stuff. I mean, but way better than Sam was. Sam was just kind of like this generic, like brooding character, that like couldn't pass off emotionally. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I just think that the way she portrayed it did not come off very well.
Maybe to show that she's kind of not emotional or unhinged because she's the daughter of a serial killer.
I get that, but she was like crying. Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, maybe she was fake crying because she thought that's what people do. Like she's a true sociopath and she doesn't understand how to. I can kind of sort of see that. But again, when I was watching the movie, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking this is just not good. Like this is bad. The movie overall doesn't really suffer for it because again, the whole movie doesn't hinge off her acting.
No.
I mean, it's totally beyond that. I mean, that's just, a couple of scenes where you're like, what is going on with this? Like, stop with the monologue. Like, just move on with the story. But again, I think everybody that was supporting her did such a great job that it kind of made up for it. But I would just say focusing on, I don't think she did a great job.
No. No.
Sorry, I went low point first, so.
That's fine. I'll go to my first thoughts, though. I thought it was really interesting that the opening scene where someone seemingly gets stabbed, because everyone seems to get stabbed in the face, and then it cuts to the scream thing, the slash, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to have her live was interesting. It was definitely a different take, definitely a departure from anything that they've done in the previous four.
Right.
And I agree with you. I don't know if we needed such interconnectivity of the Woven fan and legacy characters. Stuff like that. I'll go right into my low points though as well. Then we'll go into our highlights. Low point, I'm sorry. Richie said he watched all 8 stab movies on Netflix. Netflix does not carry any franchise as a whole ever.
Well, maybe it did in this one instance. If it's fictional, you can do that. If they're your sponsor, you can say that.
Yeah, but I thought, I go, okay, I'm glad we have this movie. I'm hoping the next one wasn't going to be 11 years after this again.
Right.
You know how I feel about impromptu legacy characters being created. We discussed this on a couple of things. And if she would have to be, this is 25 years later, so she would have to be at least 24 or 25. Sam would.
And that kind of tracks because again, she left 5 years ago, and she looks about mid-20s.
Right, but in order for it to be, you would think that Sydney would know that someone's pregnant in her high school.
Well, yeah, but that's not going to come up and scream one.
They're
not going to hold on, wait, let's give you a list of all the pregnant people in my high school. No, nobody gives a shit.
It's a small town, so you think they would have known that?
Yeah, it's a small town, but it was like a decent big high school.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like when I went to high school, there was a lot of pregnant girls. Starting like sophomore year, that was pregnant. You know what I mean?
But you generally knew who the fathers were.
No, maybe in Indiana they did. Not in Illinois, they don't.
And then I guess my little point is Dewey dying. Like they did take a fan favorite. Honestly, I felt like it should have been Gale.
Everybody feels like it should have been Gale. I mean, seriously, I think they purposely did not kill Gale because everybody wanted them to kill Gale. I think that's why. They can't kill Sydney because she was the legacy main character, right? At least not right away. I mean, they may further down the line. I'm not saying that they won't. I'm just saying in this first movie, they're not going to do that. They're not going to kill Gale because that's what everybody wants you to do. That's what everybody expects you to do. So if you do that, everybody's going to be upset that you did exactly what they wanted. Because that's how fandoms work. They think they know what they want, and then when you give it to them, they're not happy about it.
Well, which was the purpose of this movie. They state that about Stab 8, that this is a fandom now, and we are the fandoms watching this, and how fans think this should go. So that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Those are my low points, but let's get into your highlights, though.
My highlights, I already touched on it. I thought the supporting characters were fantastic. Like I said, I thought Jenna Ortega, for having a smaller role, I thought she was fantastic as Tara. I think Tara was a standout role in this, really. Like I said, Mindy was great. Richie was great. Amber
was not.
What's that?
Amber was not.
No, yeah, I was like, say Amber, nah. She was just kind of like a neutral, like kind of sort of bitchy character. I'm not saying that just because, she was like a woman trying to have power or anything. No, she was just a kind of bitchy character. She was just like a not happy kind of like stick in the mud character. until she like turned, and like you could, I mean, there was like no clues that things were happening at all.
No.
The first time you saw that it might be her was like in the party. She started acting like a total jerk. But that was like the only real clue that you got. Like I was like, oh, maybe it is her. But this is again the part of the movie where everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else. So it's like, yep, they probably are.
Well, and Dewey called it.
Well, yeah. He was like, how long you know this guy? 6 months? Yeah, don't trust this guy. He's a suspect. He's like, it's always the love interest.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, whatever. And then at the end of the movie, Richie was like, Dewey called it in one. He's like, he called me, he knew it immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, so they had to kill a legacy character, but I mean, it's sad that it was Dewey, but again, they can't kill Sydney and they don't want to do what everybody wants them to do with Gale, so yeah.
You could almost argue that Hicks was a legacy character at this point.
What, Sheriff Judy?
Yep.
But she wasn't in the first movie.
Well, because we'll get into it, because who they call legacy in the next one.
Yeah, I get that. I understand. But yeah, in this one,
they came from the same movie.
Well, they say Wes is a legacy character, right? Like, Sheriff Judy doesn't show up until 3. Which one does she show up in?
4.
Yeah, so she was only one movie before this.
All right, so are we saying, because she was crushing on Dewey, right? Which means Wes was already alive. She was part of the Arya single mother at that point, 10 years previous.
Yeah, because, if he was 18 at the time, that means he was 8. Because this is 10 years later. Yeah.
Right. No, you're right about the acting. And yeah, the limp came back for Dewey. Did Dewey go out a hero? Yeah, I mean, he's always been that guy.
Yeah,
right?
No, he went back to try to end it to make sure that it could stop, and he unfortunately, got stabbed twice from the front and the back.
Yeah,
at the same time. But yeah, like when they killed him, they said it's been an honor. Meaning like obviously this person knows his legacy status.
Right.
But yeah, overall, I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good movie. I liked it better than the fourth one.
And third.
Well, obviously, yeah. Third, yeah. Spoiler alert, third's going to be the worst score for me of this whole franchise.
Me too. So, no. So, okay. On that note, though, how many stabs out of 10 do you give this?
I will give this one 7 stabs out of 10. I actually would say I like this a little tiny skosh more than the first one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's your highest one.
Well, so far, yeah. Because
so far.
The first one was a 6.9. It was very, very close to 7, but this one is a solid 7. I like this one.
I actually like this a skosh less than Scream 4. I know the meta they're trying to do with legacy characters, and like I said that's just a personal opinion of mine that if they want to move forward of the franchise without the legacy, then there's a way to do it. And it was a lot of it felt shoehorned. Like the guy who, so I'm giving 7.5 by the way. The guy who was killed at the pool hall was Stu's nephew.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Did that really matter?
I forgot. Yeah, that's the whole reason why they started having a conversation as to who is legacy or not, is because that guy they found out was technically a legacy.
Does it matter?
No. I mean, it doesn't matter, but it matters to the point of the movie, is saying that they're killing people that were attached to the original crime. They're like the relatives of the original killers or people involved in the first one.
But yeah,
which again is funny because like Wes is not involved until the 4th movie.
Correct.
So and how is he a legacy?
And Billy's dad's still out there.
Technically, yeah.
Sydney's dad's still out there.
Yeah,
I'll add one more
he is. Yeah, because he showed up briefly in 3, right?
3, yeah, and I'll throw in the last one at the end of when we discussed Scream 6, the one character as well. that we haven't seen yet that could come into play. Who knows?
Well, yeah, but that's like Scream 2 where they brought in like Billy's mother. Like, how the hell are you supposed to know that?
Well, here's my. We'll get into my prediction of what they'll try to do next. But let's get into Scream 6. So we'll pause for a moment. Spoilers are ahead. This movie just came out 2 days ago. At the time of recording.
As of recording, yeah, this is Sunday following the Friday it came out. Yes.
Yes. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, which will be the 15th, make sure you watch Scream 6. Right?
You won't be upset that you did.
No. I'll just throw this out there right now, since we're in the spoiler territory. Richie's mom.
I guess. I'm pretty sure that they kind of worked that out of the whole family there, right? But I mean, technically, sure. I think that would be milking it a little too much. No, here's my prediction. You ready for this? This is my prediction for Scream 7, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All the characters are going to get together, and there's going to be a pool scene. And in that pool scene, they're all going to be comparing all the scars that they have from all the fucking stabs that they've gotten from all the fucking movies up until now, because they've all been stabbed like 100 fucking times. So they should be like crisscross, like treasure map scars all over their body. So they should have a scene where they're at the side of the pool and they're all covered in scars and they're all talking about it.
So you're saying we need a Jaws scene where they're comparing how they...
Absolutely. We need a Quint and Richard Dreyfuss scene, but with everybody. So we're talking, we're talking Sydney, we're talking Gail, we're talking Kirby, we're talking Sam and Tara. They've all been stabbed.
Chad's gonna win.
Chad and Mindy, right? Yeah, they've all been stabbed a lot. They all should. Well, sorry, we just gave away the survivors. I guess it doesn't matter. If you're watching this, either you don't care about spoilers or you've already seen it. So either way, I'm not ruining anything. We already gave you your warning. Yeah, we already gave you your warning.
So like I said, at the time of this recording, it's been about 8.5 hours since we've seen this movie.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no. Oh yeah. I don't know. I was thinking for some reason I was thinking 12, but yeah, no. Yeah, you're correct.
Yeah,
it is 8 hours.
Yeah. So let's get into this thing, right? We'll tag team this because I'm already having. Okay, so it starts off. I'm trying to remember how
yellow dress in the bar. So there's a woman waiting in a bar of like a trendy restaurant, waiting for a date. Obviously, like she keeps like waving to everybody coming in, and obviously that she's waiting for someone. And then they show her like, talking to someone on their phone, and, kind of texting back and forth. And, the person that she's talking to in like a online dating app, says that, oh, I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry. I'm lost. I can't find the restaurant.
Can I give you a call?
Yeah. Can I call you? So he calls. And a funny thing is I immediately knew this voice, because I just watched Willow. The show Willow, and this guy is in that movie. So I just watched it last week. So I'm like, hey, that's that guy.
Is it Tony?
What do you mean?
Is it Tony from Servant and Spider-Man? Is that the voice that was on the phone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, what? But no, yeah, he was Flash.
Tony Reveille,
yeah, he was Flash in the new Spider-Man movies. Yes, that's him.
And first and foremost, how dare you stand up Samara Weaving?
Right. Yes. But yeah, and we get her true like Australian accent in this movie.
I was taking them like when she first talked about it, I'm like, wait, she's in her real voice.
Yeah, like who is this person? But yeah, so but anyway, I immediately knew this guy's voice. I'm like, hey, it's that guy. But anyway, so she's like, oh, he's like, okay, what color is the outside of the restaurant? There's not a sign. I can't see it. She's like, oh, I think it's red. And he's like, oh, I don't see anything red. So she goes outside and she's like, yeah, it's red. And he's like, oh, I'm lost. I can't find it. Oh, I think I'm 1 block over. Oh, there's an alley. Is there an alley nearby? She's like, yeah. He's like, okay, I'm going to start walking down this alley. So she looks down the alley. She doesn't see anybody. And she's like, yeah, I don't see you. And he's like, yeah, I don't see you either, but I see somebody. He's like, oh, wave if it's you. And she's waving. He's like, yeah, they're not waving. They're just staring at me all menacingly. And she's like, what do you mean? You're like, oh no, they're following me. Oh no, they're chasing me. Oh no.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're coming after me. And so she like runs into this alley.
Well,
and then,
okay, so the point. Okay, so we have to point out that she is a professor of horror movies, specifically slasher movies.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
Associate professor.
Right. Yeah.
Because he goes, you're an associate professor, and you still went into this dark alley,
right,
of slashers.
Right. Yeah. So he basically lures into this alley. Of course, the phone switches to the voice.
Yep.
And telling that, oh, you got lured into the alley. Ghostface comes out of this kind of side alley. I don't know how that works, but there was an alley in the alley. So it came out, stabs her a whole lot of times. And that seems to happen a lot in this movie. There's a whole lot of like furious, fast stabbing of like just like 20 stabs happen in like
stabbing.
3 seconds. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of stabs that happen. So she gets killed, and then it kind of fades out. So then this guy then takes the mask off, which again is like, what? We're seeing who the Ghostface is immediately. So like he takes the mask off, and of course it's the guy I thought it was because I knew his
Tony.
voice. I was like, I just saw that guy. So I knew it was him. Anyway, so it cuts to he goes back to his apartment. And he goes in, and he's looking for his boyfriend / roommate. I don't know. They don't really describe that situation, but it feels like boyfriend to me.
Well, he goes, honey, I'm home.
Right. Yeah. Again, it feels like boyfriend to me. Anyway, so he goes into the house, and he's like, oh, he's not here. I'll put, so he puts the mask, like he opens up his closet and there's like a weird a
shrine
franchise shrine in there. So he like puts the mask back on like it's a little mannequin head that's in there. He sits down and starts watching one of this. No, what is he? Oh, he's watching a Friday the 13th movie, I believe.
Yes, he's watching Jason Takes Manhattan because this movie takes place in New York.
Right, yeah. We're in the big city. We're not in Woodboro anymore.
Even though we haven't, this is the third time outside of it, but yes.
Yeah, it's not a new thing to be outside of Woodboro. But yes, we're outside of Woodboro for the first time in this new requel franchise, whatever you call it.
Correct.
So he's sitting down and he's watching a movie, and then Greg, who's his boyfriend, roommate guy, calls him and he's like, oh, really sorry, man. I had blue balls. I had to do it. I had to test it out. I did it without you kind of thing. So apparently they had planned out this murder. Him and the boyfriend
Greg
planned this out ahead of time. And then he starts talking in the voice. And of course he goes, oh, I thought we told, we said we were never going to use the voice with each other. And so they're like kind of playing games back and forth, like, oh, well, you killed her without me, so now I'm going to play with you in this voice. Anyway,
practice the voice, yeah.
Yeah, blah, 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 back and forth banter. Eventually they start playing hot and cold. And then he leads him to the fridge, and he opens the fridge, and there is his boyfriend's butchered body is stuffed into the fridge. I mean, but like, we're talking like limbs severed, head decapitated, everything. It's bad.
Oh, yeah.
All stuffed in this fridge. And then he gets, Ghostface comes out and stabs him and kills him. But this Ghostface, you can tell there's something different about him because his mask is like old looking.
Yes, he got the Halloween 2018 mask version of the Ghostface.
Right, yeah. So it's
legacy mask.
Right, yeah. So it's like all like dirty and kind of beat up looking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So then it like, at that point it kind of goes to the whole title screen thing. So yeah, at this point we're like, okay, so now we've had like, 3 Ghostfaces already in this movie. And then when the guy kills him, he's like, oh, he said, is this because of the movie or something? And he's like, and the Ghostface that kills him says, who gives a shit about movies or something like that.
Yeah.
Which was kind of the clue I was using to try to figure out who it was. And that ultimately didn't matter. Shocking, right? I guess they do that all the time. They give you these red herrings to where you're looking for it and it doesn't happen.
Yep.
Anyway, so then we cut to Sam and Tara are both living, like Tara is now going to college, which again at this point
Sam's at a therapy session.
Right. With like some weird
she's talking
his beard's too short. I think that's why I don't like him. His beard's too short.
That's fair. I mean, our beards are spectacular. But he's going over like, you never told me really why you're here. She's like, the thing that happened last year in Woodsboro, I stabbed a guy 22 times. I liked it.
Well, she had said it felt right, and
right.
he starts like furiously writing stuff down.
And it's like, I don't know if it'll happen again. It's like, we're gonna call this now. we're done for right now. You can't report me.
But to be fair,
I have to.
Yeah, he has to call the police, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
she's taking it as being that she's admitting to it, because the next scene we really find out why he's kind of nervous about this, because she's walking out, she's calling Tara to figure out where she's at, say, hey, I'm done therapy early, we need to meet up. Tara's on her way to this college party.
A frat party. The worst kind of college
frat party. Oh, yeah.
Well, I should specify, in a horror movie, a frat party is the worst place to be.
Yeah. But she didn't know where she was going, and she's kind of attacked, and the buzz around the internet and the Reddits is that Sam, because the anonymity was there in Scream 5, that the true story hasn't come out. So people are labeling Sam as the real killer, that she staged the whole thing.
Right.
So I can see why her therapist was a little uneasy about that, but he probably knows that information.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's fair. I mean, they played it off as like a Reddit conspiracy. So yeah, there is definitely some people that are going to know it, but not everybody. And right. I would doubt some old graybeard dude would know about that. But I guess, I mean, I don't judge people based on what he's. I just kind of doubt it. I just think he was just scared about. He obviously heard about the killings, right? But not necessarily that she did it. But if she says that she killed him and she liked it, now that is something where you're like, yo, whoa, I don't want to deal with this, which is fair.
But she gets back to her apartment, and roommate, it's like, where's Tara? She's not answering. She's ignoring me.
To be clear, Quinn, the sex positive roommate.
Yes, it's very clear that she's sex positive throughout this.
That's like her defining trait is she's like always mid-bone with some guy.
Yes. So, but yeah, they find out that
well, Quinn tells Sam that Tara went to this frat party. So right. She goes to the frat party. And it's like the day before Halloween, so like everybody's in costume. So this is like a Halloween frat party. And so Tara is at the party, and she's like drunk, obviously, just like a pirate. I think she's supposed to be a pirate. Yes. So she's like drinking, like the keg is tapped out. This like creepy date rape dude brings it like, the keg's out, but there's some hard stuff in the kitchen. They go in the kitchen, all the hard stuff is gone.
Right, babe, I got Fireball in my room.
Yeah, he's like, I got some Fireball in my room. You want to come up in my room? And she's like, oh yeah, let's do that. Right, and so she tries to go upstairs.
I would, first and foremost, I'd never follow anyone to the room with the temptation of Fireball, because Fireball sucks.
Well, yeah, Fireball is fucking disgusting. I mean, that's, again, I agree with you. It's terrible. But, I mean, hey, whatever. Like she says herself, if I want to make my own mistakes, it's my choice to make, and I get that. But all her friends were there.
Fireball's a mistake, yes.
Right, yeah. But I mean, Mindy was there, Chad was there. They've all gone to the same college, so they're all kind of sort of together. So yeah, Chad tries to stop her. Be a creepy date rape guy is like, fighting back, calling her a bitch and all that stuff. So it's like
off, bro.
Yeah. So obviously they're not doing well. Sam shows up, and then Tara gets kind of upset because apparently she's like not let Tara out of her sight in the last year, which I mean, yeah. I mean, like, what the hell? Of course she hasn't. It's been a year. That's not a lot of time, She lets you come to college. It's not like she's not letting you do anything, but yeah, she's keeping a fucking eye on you. So she like comes in, date rapey guy gets a little handsy, and she tases him in the balls.
She tells him, hey, I'm tasing the balls now.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, she does give him fair warning, and he doesn't move, so it's his own fault.
Yes.
So Tara kind of gets upset, that, they're like, all like, overprotective of her, and she wants to make her own mistakes. If she wants to fuck an asshole, it's her job to, she should be able to do that. So anyway, so they all like kind of go back to their apartment. Um, her and Chad kind of have a moment, right?
Right,
That's
because as she
interrupted by
says,
Quinn, the sex positive
30
roommate.
minutes 30 minutes ago she was drunk enough to make bad decisions, but she's sober now.
Yeah, yeah. She tells him like, "Oh, I'm fine now."
Bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I
Bullshit.
mean, yes, bullshit, obviously, but that's something a drunk person would say. Yeah. So she gets interrupted. So yeah, her and Chad don't quite kiss yet. But it's obvious that they want to. They get interrupted by Quinn, the sex positive roommate. And then they find out about the killings on the news. Because apparently they're all in film school together, and this those two guys that were the one that killed the professor, they were like film students with them in the same class.
Yep.
So they knew who they were, and they the whole Ghostface thing. Obviously, they found a little Ghostface shrine in the house with the bodies. So yeah, like obviously everybody gets pinged on this. So they're watching it and they're like, "Oh, this is interesting. What's going on?" Quinn says that her dad is a New York cop. She can call him to find out more information. She
Yep.
calls him, and of course he goes like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm on the case." So why don't you have everybody come down to the station so we can talk? So they go down there. Dad is played by Dermot Mulrooney.
Well, he comes down because they said that they found a Ghostface mask that was used um by Richie and Amber,
Right.
and her and Sam's ID. So now she's tied into this, and that's the whole Reddit conspiracy thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. So yeah,
You're also
they call her
introduced
down to get alibis and all that stuff.
right, yeah, and we are introduced to Mindy's girlfriend and then the
Annika.
other roommate, Annika, then Chad's the lad's roommate, Ethan.
Well, I think that's after this.
I think they're all at the house watching the news.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Next, that means very, very shortly they will be, but not just yet. They go down, they give the interview, they give their alibis, and then they go down to the house and they decide to do like a lockdown thing, and that's when everybody comes over. That's when Chad brings over Ethan, I think is his roommate, right?
Yeah.
And then Annika is Mindy's girlfriend, I believe. Yeah.
No, that's after this. Like when they start getting attacked in their apartment after lockdown,
Right.
because they go to the bodega first
Right.
before the lockdown.
Right.
I think it's because of the bodega that they go into the lockdown.
That's fair.
So yeah, I think it's either on the way there or on the way back. They get the phone call and it has Richie's picture on Sam's phone because she didn't delete his contact number.
Well, which is fair. If the dude's dead, it's not going to be one of the things you think of doing.
Right. But it's the voice essentially knows where they are, and they pursues them into a bodega, and legacy mask looking esque, right? And this is in the trailer, a customer of the bodega is like, "Yeah, problem, man." He gets like stabbed right in the neck.
Well, he gets one of the furious stabs. He gets stabbed like 5 times, like really fast.
Right.
And then the guy behind him tries to do something. He gets stabbed just like once, like through the neck. And then everybody else runs.
And then the bodega owner had a shotgun, shot him, and he's able to roll out of the way.
Well, to be fair, he didn't hit him.
Yeah.
He shot, and he was like already out of the way when he shot, and he blew up like a bunch of chips, but he didn't hit him the first time.
And then he gets attacked, and then something we didn't see is the Ghostface using a shotgun to blow someone's head off.
Right.
So then they're trying to escape through the bodega by throwing things. The bodegas aren't very big, so not a lot of places to hide. And then they knock him, like push a shelf over, and they try to get out, and people like, "Help us!" There's someone in there, and they look up, and there's nothing there except just a mask.
Right. But it's not the mask that he was wearing.
No. We find out that it was used by Jill
and Charlie. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at this point, they're basically figuring out that the killer is leaving masks, belonging to the other killers, and they seem to be counting down from most recent to old.
Yeah. Right. To what? We don't know.
Right. Yeah, so that's when they decide to go into lockdown. I guess the one other thing that we should mention before this lockdown is that there's like who they call the cute guy who like lives like across their little like courtyard from them, because they're like on like the 4th, 5th floor. So he's like across the courtyard that I can see into his apartment on the other side. And they always joke about how he's like this cute guy that Sam and him keep checking each other out, but they don't ever meet up.
Yeah.
And there was a quick scene where they show that they were actually hooking up. They were just hiding it from everyone.
Yes.
I think that's the only other information that we need at this point. Anyway, so yeah, they all decide to lock down, and they all, kind of lock down in there, and they, that's just where they come up with the whole core 4 thing. To where it's Mindy, Chad, Sam, and Tara who are the people that survived the last attack. So they're calling themselves the core 4.
Yep.
Obviously Chad comes up with it. They all reluctantly kind of agree with it. And while they're all kind of like bonding over dinner, in the other room, Quinn, who is the sex positive roommate, is being attacked by Ghostface. And the guy across the hall, I guess we'll just say the guy across the hall, hall, the cute guy, he sees this happening and he tries calling Sam. She doesn't pick up, and he sends a picture of Ghostface attacking her in the room to everyone.
Yep.
I don't know how he knows everyone's number, but he does. And so he sends this picture to everyone, and they go, oh shit. And they go open the door to find out what's happening. And the door opens and her body comes flying out and knocks everybody kind of down like bowling pins. And then they start getting chased all around the apartment. Tara and Chad run out the door and run all the way down the stairs. And then Sam and Mindy and Annika get kind of blocked by Ghostface, and they can't get through, so they have to like run around the apartment. And they end up I think they get slashed a couple of times. And they like break through various doors before they kind of barricade themselves back in Quinn's room. To where they lock the door, and then he comes around the bathroom door. It's apparently a shared bathroom with multiple doorways. And he comes around that side, and they block up that door with a dresser. But at this point, Annika had already been stabbed very, very badly in the gut. Right. Yeah.
Like her guts were kind of coming out.
Right. It's not good. Like she's in full on like cold sweats. Like she's probably not going to last very long. Mindy has a very, very nasty slash on her arm. There's a lot of blood, and she's got the cold sweats going too. Like bad things are happening. And they're holding the door closed, and they have no way out. Kind of Tara and Chad. I kind of don't know what happened to Chad at this point. It's like they get all the way down and they realize that they're not there. They go back up. They realize the door is locked. And they can't get back in.
And the keys are inside. Yeah.
And the keys are inside. And then they just kind of like disappear. They just
oh well.
Yeah, they just kind of disappear from the scene. Like they're just not there. Anyway,
Chad's a bro. He should be able to break down that door.
Right.
I'm just saying.
But yeah, he doesn't try. They're just removed from the scene at this point. Yeah. So then cute guy basically, is waving his arms out the window. They open the window and he's like, he puts out a ladder so they can climb across. So he puts out a ladder. So Sam comes over first and she's okay. Mindy is obviously injured and it's very shaky, but she does get through. Annika is very, very injured and she's coming through. Ghostface makes it through the dresser, finally gets the door open as Annika's about halfway over. And Ghostface just starts shaking the ladder around.
Yeah.
I don't know why he doesn't just like throw it or move it or whatever. Anyway, but he's like shaking it and knocking it around.
With her, yeah,
toying with her. And she does eventually fall to her death in the courtyard.
I mean, she was probably gonna die anyway.
Yeah, to be fair, that was a nasty wound because it was like stab in and then he like pulled it up. So it was like
and twisted. Yeah,
there was a lot of bad damage that happened in there.
Yeah. We should also point out though, before the scene, that we find out that Kirby is back at the station as the FBI agent.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Gail Weathers is back, and they have the run-in with her. She dodges Sam's punch but then Tara hits her.
Right. I think that happens right before the bodega thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
funny
and
thing is, sorry, go ahead.
sorry. I said, and the therapist, Sam's therapist, gets stabbed, and because he gets, I believe, Roman's mask at his murder.
Right. Yeah, because they're
right. So
they're
funny thing.
Well, the funny thing is that Hayden Panettiere actually like campaigned for her character to survive.
Yes.
Like actually had
she
to like
quit. She quit acting.
right. Yeah, she had to like she like called them up and was like gave them a case to bring her character back because again they never actually showed her dead. No. And they never actually said anything about her being dead. So technically she could still be alive and she is. And now she's an FBI.
No, she said in the movie technically she died for 4 minutes.
Right. Yeah, so even if they did say she died, it was true but they didn't say that. I knew that before I watched 4. And I was waiting for it. I was like to see if there was anything like definitively saying she was dead and there's not. So
yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. But yeah, she's an FBI agent now. There's even a joke made by Gail where she's like, "You're just a child. How can you be an FBI agent?" She's like, "I'm 30," which is it's fair. It tells you how long the franchise has been going.
Somehow Kirby has come back.
Right. Yeah. So so Kirby is back. And to be fair, I like Kirby. Kirby's a cool character. But she did come back. So yeah, at this point, obviously horrible things have happened. Everybody needs to like recover and go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Quinn is now dead. Annika is now dead. Mindy was stabbed. I don't think anybody else was stabbed. I think everybody else was okay.
And the Ethan was not around this entire time.
Correct.
And they questioned that because where he's like, I had what it was
Econ. He said he had econ.
It's around hundreds of people. The detective was taken off the case because it's too personal now.
Well, his daughter is one
killed.
of the victims. So that tracks. Yeah, that's.
But the mask left was worn by Mickey.
Right.
He's like, well, I'm off this now. So he's like, we're gonna get that fucker. Burn him.
Right. Yeah. So that's when Gail comes in and uses her investigative journalism techniques to find this like secret shrine. It's like an old movie theater that's converted into like a stab movie franchise shrine.
Museum. Yeah.
Right. So there's like they have all of the original Ghostface outfits worn by all of the original killers. There's 9 of them at this point.
Yes.
Because counting all the movies, because Scream 3 only had 1 Ghostface, but all the other ones had 2.
Correct.
So which means
they had, the TV that was used to kill Stu Macher.
Right.
They even had the knives, weapons used. They had the shirts that people were killed in.
Right.
They had Randy's shirt. There's the top story jacket, which was top story from Gail's journalist. Right.
Yeah, it was basically like any kind of memorabilia from both the Stab movie franchise and the real Ghostface killing. Well, real in that world.
Yes.
Killing. So they had everything. But it seemed to be like they held the real killers in higher regard. So they loved the franchise, but they loved the real killers. And they seems to be like this collection because all the masks are missing from all of the mannequins, which means that these are the masks that they originally had and that whoever owns this shrine is the one doing the killings.
Right, because they're saying they'll find DNA evidence of everyone in that mask.
Right. So at this point, so they find out all this kind of stuff. Like Tara kind of has like a mini kind of breakdown. And Kirby has to kind of talk her through it. And then after that, they basically decide that they're going to do like a sting operation. And they basically tell Gail, "Oh, it's no press allowed." I have no fucking clue why they did that.
I'm FBI, no press allowed. So
right,
Gail goes back home.
Right, but that's like the dumbest thing. Like you're all involved, man. Like, why are you trying to? Anyway, it doesn't make any sense.
Right, and
they have to set up the next scene. It just doesn't make any sense.
So essentially, we're at a public park, and they're having a sting operation. Like go out into the open. We'll have them call you. We'll trace it. 'Cause I can trace it in 15 seconds, says Kirby.
Well, yeah, they're basically redoing the
Scream 2.
Yeah, the campus scene from Scream 2 is
Which
essentially
they exact, because this is where we get all the rules, is in this, while they're all sitting around.
Yeah.
The rules of the requel, the sequel to the revival or remake.
Yeah, and what are the rules? There are no rules. Everybody's fair game.
Even legacy characters can.
Yeah, it's all everybody's fair game. Oh, and everything's gonna be bloodier and worse than the last one. It's like, stop. Why do you bother with the rules? They're always the same. Like, just stop it.
But they even point out, like we're gonna do this in the middle of daylight. That's how our uncle died.
Right.
Doing this same thing.
Right.
Oh. But anyway, Ghost, the voice calls Sam, and it's using Richie's phone. And, we traced it. It's coming from, 96th Avenue. And then cut to Gale.
Yeah, it's Gale's apartment, right. Yeah, so, Gale, gets a call from the voice. Of course,
her boy toy's there.
Yeah, boyfriend is there who goes in the other room for something. She's pacing around the room, and we see Ghostface kill the boyfriend while her back is turned. And she's like,
right, and something.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say something that they never mentioned before that you never really thought of, and they mention it while she gets the call from the voice. Is it's finally a pleasure to get to speak to. We've never spoken before.
Right, and again, the voice seems to be the omniscient version of the voice that knows every other conversation the voice has ever had. Yes. Even though most of this stuff is not, whatever. The voice is omniscient when it's using the voice to speak to people. They talk about how, Gale and the voice have never spoken, and now they finally have. Boy Toy gets murdered. Eventually, Boy Toy gets thrown through the bookshelf. And Gale, there's a chase through the house. Gale hits him with a frying pan. Eventually, locks herself
and
in.
Drops it.
Yeah, of course.
Cast iron.
Those are heavy, to be fair. She gets in her room, locks the door. She, eventually gets open her gun safe, and then shoots through the door. And eventually it opens it. Of course, he's not there. Struggle, fight. She gets stabbed again.
A few times.
Yeah, she gets stabbed more than once this time, and it doesn't look good for Gale. No. I thought for sure Gale was dead in this scene, especially when everybody finally gets there to scare him away. I thought for sure she was going to die. The way she was talking, I was like, "Oh, she's dead."
Yeah, no, this is it. I'm done.
Yeah, and I forget. Yeah. Anyway, so she had some last words. I don't remember what they were. Oh, tell Sydney he didn't get me or something. And I guess we should also talk that, Sydney took Mark to a safe location and
with her kids.
Yeah, she's not being involved in this.
Mark Kincaid.
Yeah. Well, they kept saying Mark. I'm like, who the fuck is Mark? I know he's got to be somebody from the movie, but I didn't realize, because in the movie, in Scream 3, they always said Kincaid. They never said his first name.
Correct.
So they're saying Mark. I'm like, who the fuck is Mark? Am I supposed to know who Mark is?
They said it at the end of 3 because Sydney kept calling him Kincaid. He's like, oh, call me Mark.
Whatever.
They're going to watch the movie.
I don't care. I don't like 3. I don't want to remember that. So anyway, so Gale appears to die, and then the paramedics say, oh, look, we got a weak pulse. We'll take her to the hospital.
And Gale.
Yeah, and Gale exits the film, but she's not dead. She does survive. Boyfriend, her boy toy guy did not survive.
And the voice goes, I guess all those muscles didn't help him. I guess not.
Yeah, she's like, man, I guess not. I mean, it's very casual, but Gale kept her head under pressure. She really did.
Yes.
Okay, so at this point they go, okay, well, he's just going to keep coming after us. We need to do something. We need to trap him. So we need to come up with a trap so that he can come after us and we can trap him and then, kill him. Because, obviously they want to kill him. So they get everybody involved. They get, Dermot Mulroney involved, of course, because he wants to avenge his daughter. Of course, Kirby's on board because, she doesn't like Ghostface. She's got stabbed by him before, even though this is
shows her scar.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does. Yeah, so they basically all decide they want to end it. So they go back to the shrine because it had like key card entry and there's only one way in or out.
And a man trap.
And a man trap and all that stuff. Yeah. So they decide this is the safest place to do it at. They're all gonna go there. So they all take the subway there. Of course. Kirby is not with them. Kirby says that she's gonna meet them there.
Yep.
So everybody else goes on the subway. Mindy and Ethan, because it's like this is like Halloween night, so there's people like everywhere, and they're all like dressed up in costume. So
Easter eggs,
right? Yeah. So there's a million ghost faces, of course. So anyway, Mindy and Ethan don't catch the first train; they end up in another train that's like 5 minutes behind them. Yeah. The first train is Sam, Tara, Chad, and is that it?
And the cute boy from across the hall.
Oh, right. And that's right. Cute boy is with them at this point too. Yeah. So they're all in the first train. They all make it to the place. Okay. The train behind, Mindy and Ethan are there. Mindy does not trust Ethan at this point. She's not necessarily.
She's been calling him Ghostface. She's been calling him Ghostface for a while.
Well, yeah, because again, he's the guy that wasn't there. He was the only guy that wasn't there during the attack in the apartment. And, even though he had an alibi supposedly, but he was the only guy that wasn't there. And also, he's like the weird, creepy roommate, whatever. She's kind of convinced that he's like one of them at least. But not quite convinced enough to like, completely turn him in or kill him or anything. But she's pretty, on the fence about it. Anyway, so she's like standing like a whole subway car away from him. And she keeps kind of getting scooted back and further by all the people milling around and stuff like that. Anyway, there's a lot of scenes where, weird ghost faces are staring at her because there's a lot of them on the train.
And it goes back and forth between both train cars because, like I said, Easter egg galore.
Yeah.
Because we see every slasher icon you could possibly think of. We have people dressed as the tethered in Us. There was the doctors and scientists from Cabin in the Woods. So we can do a whole Easter egg video just on this train scene alone.
Probably. Who are the people with the ski goggles? I was trying to figure out who they were supposed to be. I'm like, I have no fucking clue who these people are supposed to be. Everybody else I pretty much got. It was like people in ski goggles. I'm like, I don't know who this is supposed to be. Are they supposed to be like the Thing? Because it didn't look like correct. But I guess maybe I was like, maybe?
Maybe. Or it could have been from Frozen. Where they're stuck in the ski lift.
Oh, I never saw that.
That's an old-ass reference.
Yeah,
but, the Thing is more popular. They only really don't show popular movie characters.
Well, yeah. So, yeah,
there's better versions of them than what were in Jeepers Creepers Reborn. I'm just throwing it out there.
That's very correct. Anyway, so this all boils down to Mindy gets kind of pushed up against the back wall. And then there's like an extended kind of power outage on the subway, which I guess is fairly normal. And she gets stabbed by another ghost face.
Really well, too.
Yes. Eviscerating. Like a big stab. A big stab. And of course, everybody around her is like oblivious. I think one person is like asleep next to her. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like nothing ever happens. Ethan finally makes his way over there. He sees that she's been stabbed and he like starts calling for help. He drags her out of the train and asks for help and stuff. And he eventually, I guess, gets her to the hospital because she ends up in the hospital.
Yes.
And then Ethan ends up going to, I guess he goes to the hospital with her at this point, right? They don't really say what happens anyway. But yeah, so he tells everybody else that she's in the hospital, but she's okay. And then they meet up with Kirby. They go into the shrine. They lock it down. And now they're like preparing for stuff going on. Sam gets a call from the cop dad, Quinn's cop dad, saying that Kirby was fired from the FBI 2 months previous for being unstable. And she's been on a downward spiral since the last murders happened, which is the last murders in Scream 5. Since those last murders happened, she's been a downward spiral. She's been fired. Like she's not an FBI agent. Like she's the killer. You need to watch out for her. Yeah. So like, and they go in there and a ghost face pops up. Again, we're supposed to assume that this is Kirby. Yeah, we'll just go with that for now. So we're supposed to assume that this is Kirby. And so they're being chased around. Eventually, there's a scene where Tara and Chad are like kissing again. He gets attacked by a ghost face, and then another ghost face pops out. So the two ghost faces stab Chad a whole lot.
They made him
a
pincushion.
Yeah, they stabbed him a whole lot of
times.
times.
Also, I'll point out the cute boy from across the hall wasn't allowed into here.
Correct, because he wasn't
didn't trust him.
Yeah,
right.
So he was not allowed in. So he didn't come in. He came to the front of the building, but they wouldn't let him in.
Yes.
So at this point in time, the cop guy says that he's on his way. They're all, getting chased around by Ghostface because, again, he kills or essentially stabs the shit out of Chad. So it's Sam and Tara running around. At this point, we're kind of assuming that it's Kirby in the Ghostface, or at least one of them. We know there's two. We know at least one of them is supposed to be Kirby. And then they're fighting. Cop Dad finally comes in.
Also note that Sam did take Billy Loomis's knife.
Correct. Yeah.
From the case.
Yeah. So she has another Billy Loomis flashback, which is actually Skeet Ulrich that comes in and does it. There's another, flashback where he tells her to take the knife, and he's like, yeah, good choice. And she takes the knife. Anyway.
My personal favorite. Yeah.
Right. So Cop Dad comes in. He's like gonna shoot Ghostface supposedly. Kirby pops out, who's like all bloody, like it's basically saying, I've been knocked out. I'm not the Ghostface. One of them knocked me out. So they're going back and forth where Cop Dad is kind of accusing Kirby, and then Kirby kind of convinces everybody that it's not her, and then right at that moment, Cop Dad shoots her.
Well, Ghostface, the two Ghostface appear, and like he's going to go after the Cop Dad. He's going to shoot them, and then he shoots Kirby instead.
Right. Yeah. So then, like the two Ghostfaces are now like flanking Cop Dad, but obviously in league with him. So yeah, at this point, again, they're confused. I'm confused. I'm like, who the hell are these people supposed to be? They're going on and on about protecting their legacy and protecting their brother. Like they say, you killed our brother. The family, but they're not saying who it is. And I'm like, okay, what the like, who are they supposed to be? And they're like, you're not getting it yet, are you? I'm like, no. I wanted to say, like, no, I'm not getting it. Who the fuck is he?
Well, here, dumb. Right. Let's explain it.
Yeah, and then eventually they're like, well, fine, I guess I'll tell you. But anyway, so this is Richie's family. This is Richie's dad, Richie's brother, Richie's sister.
And Richie's brother being Ethan.
Right.
And the sister being
Quinn.
Okay, we figures you, Ethan, all right? And then dun dun dun, Quinn's alive.
Yeah, then Quinn is like
positive and alive.
Right, yeah. and then he's all like, yeah, I switched out the body real quick. I'm like, dude, I don't care who you are. There ain't no way in hell you're switching out a fucking body.
German Maloney, he can do what the hell he wants.
Apparently, but whatever. I mean, again, it wasn't enough time for them to actually get caught. He probably would have got caught no matter what. But I think it was enough time for him to not get caught. Anyway, so now it's Richie's family is trying to like avenge him, and this whole collection was Richie's collection, and apparently the dad helped him build this collection.
He had home movies,
right?
He had recording for Stab,
right? That he had made himself, and like he was so into the franchise that he was like, whatever. That's what he was so into this, and this was like the thing that his whole family shared, I guess. So when he was killed, now they want to like avenge him and also continue his legacy. So they want to frame Sam for all these killings and in essence kind of, insinuate that she did the earlier killings to kind of exonerate his name, even though they know that he did the killings.
Correct. We know, like, we don't care. We'll survive. Whoever survives will tell the story.
Right.
So then there's back and forths.
And again, I think the only thing that I thought was funny in this was Tara gets straight up like running stabbed in the back. I mean, like we're talking like big stabbed. I mean, it's like the knife is all the way in, like in her kidney.
Yep.
And she just essentially walks away. Like, it doesn't even affect her. She can still climb ladders and fight back and stuff. It doesn't even affect her at all. But that was a big stab. Anyway, this fight's back and forth. Tara ends up killing Ethan. Sam ends up killing Quinn. And then ends up, or I think Kirby Kirby eventually kills Ethan for the second time.
Yes.
And then they finally kill Cop Dad.
Correct. Now, what was used to kill Quinn was the TV from Stu Macher, because it was pointed out by Mindy earlier that it's like, this is what supposedly killed Stu Macher.
Right.
Hinting that he's potentially alive.
Well, I know. There's the whole thing of Matthew Lillard being in Scream 2.
Yes.
Maybe that'll be Scream 7.
That's my guess. Honestly. And Richie's mom.
Well, how desperate is Matthew Lillard for work, I guess? I haven't seen him in anything for a while. I'm pretty sure he'll take it.
Yeah.
Here would be a super cool twist. You ready? Billy Loomis isn't around anymore. So Stu Macher's going to come back to help them against whoever the new Ghostface is.
Maybe.
That's what I think.
But anyway, yeah, Cop Dad's dead. The Richie's family is dead that we know of. I said still mom.
Yeah, the mom. Okay, like cheesy that would be if the mom comes back in the next one. It's like, come on.
Well, they didn't Scream 2.
Oh, well, okay. Scream 2 was a mom. And then it's some completely random dude.
Yeah.
But like this one is like the whole family, and now they're going to have the one lost member of the family.
Yeah. And so they're getting out. They're all getting patched up like, oh, we got a live one. He's only been stabbed 80 billion times. Right. Chad's still alive. He's the new dude.
Yep. Yeah, so the core 4 survives because, Mindy leaves the hospital to come back. And so they all meet up again. And they're all fine. Again, they've been stabbed a whole lot.
And then Sam drops her dad's ghost face at the final scene.
Yep.
All right, so I just want to point out Core 4 exists, right? So they're still alive. Then we have Kirby. We still have Sydney. We still have Gale. We have Kincaid. That's 8. We have 8 alive people that are legacy characters at this point in time. That's a lot for a franchise.
Yeah.
And they call it a franchise.
They do.
I know. So, all right. So what were your first thoughts? Obviously, we saw this together. Let's get your thoughts on this first.
My first thought, okay, I spent a good chunk of this movie trying to figure out how old Jenna Ortega is supposed to be in this movie. Because again, like I said, in the first one, we figured out I did bad math. I didn't do it right. I was thinking she was like 14 years old. And then like a year later, now she's in college. I'm like, why is a 15-year-old girl in college? And why is this dude who's obviously like way older than her and like 2 feet taller than her, like now hitting her? But that's another thing, is that Jenna Ortega is tiny. She's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think she says she's like 5'1".
5'1".
She feels like she's 4.5 feet tall. Everyone in this movie towers over her. I mean, we're talking at least a foot. Every co-star in this movie is at least a foot taller than her. It is ridiculous. Like even her sister is like a foot taller than she is. Like put her in some heels or something. Like I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
But she did a great job. I'm not saying that, she didn't do a great job. She did. It was a fantastic job. It was just, I spent an unhealthy amount of time trying to figure out how old she was supposed to be. But it was good. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be terrible because I mean, the fifth one was good. But I could see it going in bad direction. Right. And it was, to be fair, it was good. My first impressions were, that it was good. I think I felt like Sam took a couple of acting lessons, not enough. I still feel like she's definitely the weakest of the cast. But this one wasn't as bad because like you had some people that were not great, kind of offsetting that. Like Quinn, not that great. Ethan,
Not that
not that
great.
great. I mean, so again, we got some people that are not that great in this movie. Whereas in the fifth one, she was really like the only one that didn't do a great job. Everybody else was pretty stellar. And this one, there was a little half and half. So I think maybe it just seemed like she did better because there was some people that were not doing that great. Like Cute Boy Across the Hall, he was really giving off those like abusive
Bimbo?
boyfriend vibes. I mean, like, I don't know. I felt like you needed to stay away from him. Like, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get hurt if you stay with this guy. Like, he just
Girl,
does not
you don't
feel
need no
safe.
man like that.
Yeah, he does not feel safe. I did not. I don't know what it was. Bad vibes off of that guy.
I like. She was like, "Why do you have a ladder? Don't worry about it." Like she said that while she's crossed the
Well, yeah,
ladder.
it's like
Why do you have a
okay, you're
ladder?
crossing a ladder. Just shut up. Nobody cares. It's a ladder. It's not that strange of a thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, it. My first thoughts were, yeah, this is. Am I going to say it's better than the sequel of the first trilogy? No, I'm not. But it's really up there, though. It's pretty high up there on that list. Like I said, as we said before, Scream 3 is going to be our lowest rated one.
Yeah,
without a doubt. I thought everything was good. Like, you're right. I was also trying to figure out who the killers were going to be and see who's there, who's not there. But now it just feels like they're just cutting stuff out so we don't see it, so we can't try to figure it out.
yeah.
We watch enough of these
and that's to be fair
to do it.
right.
Yeah.
And again, I do it every time. I tell myself don't do that, but I do it every time. Like looking at how physical and what the guy looks like in the Ghostface outfit, right? Like, okay, tall, physically imposing guy, right? And it was like, obviously, like Ethan and Quinn are like, Ethan was a little taller, but they're both skinny.
Yeah.
I don't see them being strong at all. Like Cop Dad, okay, I can see him having like crazy dad strength. I get that, right? But like the other two, I don't see them pulling that shit off. And there was like some crazy strength stuff happening. What's that?
Yeah. I said, I'm pretty sure Dermot could kick my ass. So I'm just, if you really wanted to, yes.
Right.
The other two, no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, see, now I know who Dermot Mulrooney is. For a long time when I was younger, I would always get Dermot Mulrooney and Dylan McDermott confused. Like I know their faces. If I saw the face, I would be able to put them in what other movies they were in, but their names were like interchangeable.
Yeah, okay.
Like I could never remember what the actual name of each one was because it's like that Dermot really threw me off. You know, like there's a Dermot in there. I know there's a Dermot in it, but I don't know which one.
Yeah. So what were your highlights in this though?
My highlights in this, like I said, I think I liked the effects in this one. I think they were pretty consistent with the one before this. They weren't quite as gory. I think there was a lot more. Like I felt like the stabs were more brutal in this one. They were like a lot of like hard stabs and then like twisting and then like gutting to like you stab and then you're like pushing through the stab. You know what I mean? Like like that kind of thing. Like this movie had a lot of those and a lot of like furiously fast stabbings. I felt like this movie had a lot of those. Those were cool. Oh, you know what? I just remembered something from 4. I know I'm going way back. The knife was so stupid shiny in 4 that it bothered me. It was like they covered it in chrome and it was like so freaking shiny. You could see it from space. It really bothered. Anyway, it bothered me. That's just a quick aside. But no, this one, I thought they did a great job with the effects. I really liked, the way that they did it. I just thought it was pleasant overall. Again, like the acting was like half and half. You know, again, it was a little bit easier to swallow than the first one because there was at least other people not doing quite as well. So Sam didn't quite seem so out of place. She still feels a bit out of place, but she did better in this one than she did in the other one.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dermot was fantastic in this. I think he was kind of the star of this. So, I mean, that's definitely a highlight. And they really made it feel like crowded New York. right? Because every other time we've been really there. I mean, yeah, they were in Hollywood and LA. It didn't seem very crowded. Um,
Well, because they were on the movie set like the whole
I
time.
know. I mean, instead of being just in the middle of nowhere, like you're in the city, and that's the scary thing. Because let's face it, murders happen in the city a lot, and a lot of people don't notice them. So I think that's very true to the city atmosphere.
I
Um,
also like that Kirby came back.
yeah,
I really like Kirby as a character. I'm glad that she came back, and
yeah,
I'm glad they didn't kill her. That's a highlight.
yeah. What about low points for you though?
Uh, Low points. I mean, they did a pretty good job in this one to not have some heavy low points. I think this one really felt like kind of the pinnacle of, it's just a plot device, whether you survive the stabbing or whether you're affected by the stabbing or not. Like this one is like, like Annika gets stabbed, right? Like a bad
Yeah,
stab and gutted, and she's like pretty much out. And then like Tara gets full on like kidney stabbed from behind and she's fine. Like the next
yes,
scene, she is climbing a ladder and it's like there's barely a blood trickle coming out. I mean, it's just this bizarre plot device to where everybody gets stabbed all the time, but it's like the story dictates whether you're actually going to be injured or not. And I don't quite understand why the franchise does that. I mean, I get it. People have to be stabbed in this franchise. Like that's the whole thing. That's the whole shtick. But
hmm
like, you have it mean something at least.
yeah. My low points. Number one, kill off some legacy characters. We have 8. That's too many.
I feel like Gale should have died in this one.
Yes,
And also, yeah, low point is Sydney is not even in the movie.
they mention her name.
Yeah, they casually mention her like twice, and that's it.
And number 2, how dare you do that to Samara Weaving?
Well, it's always got to be a pleasantly like popular person that dies in the first scene of the movie. That's how it always works. It's always like a
But
semi-famous person, and they always die first.
but my problem with it is she is in her own right a scream queen, therefore should not be the opening victim.
Well, that's the whole thing. They want you to think about it.
And then the whole idea that people are referencing, this has gone places that Scream has never gone before. I fundamentally disagree with that statement.
Huh.
They've been outside of Woodsboro half the time of the franchise. They've been to a big ass city. And this really is just Scream 2. Again. I'm by Scream 2.
It's not. I mean, it definitely has elements that they stole from Scream 2.
Mhm.
Basically being like it's in college and the public park scene. But I mean, the rest
Yeah.
of it isn't.
Well, it's the parent of the previous murderers. That was there too. And Billy's mom is Richie's dad. That was there.
I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, as far as like the movie plot goes,
Yeah.
there's really
No,
not
they
many
just need to have,
comparisons to be made outside of that.
yeah, someone from the core 4 needs to go.
Uh,
They really do.
I think they should have just killed Gale. But again, at this point, she's like the last in this movie. She's the last legacy character, right?
Yep.
Dewey's gone, and Sydney didn't sign on for this movie, so she's the only one. So yeah, I get why they didn't kill her. I bet you in the original script she did die.
Oh, guarantee.
I bet you in the original script she did die, and when Sydney didn't sign on, when Nev Campbell said no, they were like, okay, Gale has to survive because if she says no the next time, we need at least one legacy character.
Yeah.
So that I think that's why they didn't kill her. So if Nev Campbell signs on for the next one, I think Courtney Cox is definitely gonna go.
Right.
Maybe
Right,
both.
so
Hell, maybe
how
both
many
of them will go.
Yeah. And for this being a franchise, there's never this many survivors in a franchise.
That's correct.
Period. So how many stabs out of 10 would you give this movie?
Um, I I'll say it's pretty much the same as Scream 5. I will give it 7. 7 stabs out
7?
of 10. Yeah, I feel like it maintains the quality, and it, like I said, it gives and takes a bit, but I think it maintains the same overall level.
Okay. I agree with that, so that's why I'm still sticking with the 7.5. Because like to me, it goes 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 3.
And so
According to your scores, it goes
5, 6, 1, 2. No, 1, 4, 2, 3. So yeah, 5, 6, 1, 4, 2, 3. Yeah, that's mine.
Well, now that you've experienced all the Screams, you have been missing 4 of them. Do you feel better about this franchise?
I know. I do now. I didn't. I mean, I when I watched 3, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be rough. Like I was assuming they were just gonna get worse after 3, because they normally do. Once you hit a bad one, they usually just keep riding that bad wave. But no, I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I mean, 4, I wasn't that, wowed with, but it was better. I mean, I give you 4 was better than 3. But I still didn't feel like it was going to go out on a high. I did not expect 5 and 6 to be as good as they were.
Well, I also like that it made fun of Jason Takes Manhattan, because that's arguably one of the worst Friday the 13th.
Well, not only that, but he's like barely in Manhattan. Like he doesn't take anything.
He's barely in. Yeah, he's in Manhattan for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like Jason takes a boat on the way to Manhattan is what it should have been, because that's all that happens.
And I will throw this out there too, for a franchise that was able to make these movies a year apart. Other franchises that did that, the quality dropped so hard.
Yeah,
we saw that in the 80s with all that stuff. And for this movie to be able to do it is a testament to, I think, to the franchise. Because we generally don't get good franchises like this for like 5 to 7 years between each movie.
Right. That's fair.
That are consistent quality. Although, arguably Alien dropped down a lot there. But.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, it's just inconsistent. Well, there's a new one being made. Hopefully that'll want to be better.
We'll see. That's going to have to be part of our roundup for the year, because, you never know. We're not going to be able to fit this in with anything else. Anyway, anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well then, why don't you join us next week as we venture into the woods? Whether the 100-acre woods or some folktale, the woods have always been a source of danger throughout mankind history. Let's see if that holds true for the first round of Evil Woods, where we discuss Eden Lake, Dead End, and The Ritual. So stay tuned for next week, and remember, we watch bad movies so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.